Chapter 44-47. Hee hee. Fairy Xingyu laughed again. Don't worry, don't worry. Let's finish your story first. It won't be too late to tell you later. What else do you want to know? Didn't I tell you everything? Xiao Hua looked innocent, as if he had been wronged. Suji asked, Xiao Hua, are you from the 3 continents? When I was preparing to give you the cultivation method and other things, I did check all the Dao sect cultivators in the 3 continents, but I couldn't find your origin no matter how hard I tried. It was as if you appeared in the longevity town out of thin air. Xiao Hua had already thought it through. He actually wanted to hide the matter of the West Sea, but he had met the Grand Mist Ancestor, so the matter of the West Sea could not be hidden from Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu. Moreover, Xiao Hua also had an extravagant hope in his heart. He wanted to get the method to return to the Dawn Rain continent from these 2 mysterious experts. Xiao Hua smiled and said, I appeared in the longevity town out of thin air, but the first time I appeared in the 3 continents was not in the longevity town, but in the West Sea. The West Sea? You are really not a human from the 3 continents. Fairy Xingyu felt a little strange, but she replied with certainty, Su Ji, see, I'm right. Yes, I'm from the Dawn Rain continent. A rogue cultivator. Xiao Hua wanted to say that he was a disciple of the Imperial Thunder sect, but he suddenly remembered that he had been expelled by the Imperial Thunder sect. He could not help but feel sour in his heart and changed his words to a rogue cultivator. Dawn Rain continent? Su Ji was stunned and thought for a while. He turned to look at Fairy Xingyu and asked curiously, Xingyu, why don't I know that there's a world called the Dawn Rain continent near the 3 continents? Yes. I don't know either. I've never heard of the name of this world. Fairy Xingyu was also at a loss. How can you not know? Su Ji asked faintly. Don't you claim to know everything? I just don't know. So what? Fairy Xingyu said rudely. Don't you also claim to know everything? Why don't you know? Hee hee, seniors. Xiao Hua smiled as he looked at the 2 experts flirting with each other. When Junior first arrived at the Western Ocean, he encountered an extremely interesting matter. Oh, what's the matter? Fairy Xingyu raised her eyebrows and asked curiously. Xiao Hua didn't answer him. Instead, he looked at Su Ji and said, presumably, Senior Su has already guessed it. If you didn't say it, I wouldn't have guessed it. Now that you've said it, of course I know. Su Ji immediately understood after hearing this. Unconsciously, a dark cloud appeared on his face. Fairy Xingyu was also a little surprised, but when she saw Su Ji's reaction, she immediately understood and said with a smile, I was wondering. The Grand Mist Ancestor was being suppressed in the West Sea's eye, so how could he escape? So it's you, the Jinx, who appeared. Yes, Junior met Master Qing Chen from the Pure Land of Ultimate Bliss, Master Leopard from the Thousand Beasts Sacred Ground, Su Zhuoyang and Chu Muhuan from the Hidden Immortal Continent. They were invited by the Deputy Inspector of the West Sea Dragon Palace, Xiancheng, to explore the West Sea Lost Treasure. When they saw that Junior's cultivation was good, they invited Junior along. However, the treasure map of the West Sea Lost Treasure was bait thrown out by the Grand Mist Ancestor. Other than Junior and Xiancheng, the rest of the human and beast clans, and by Haojiao, who secretly followed Xiancheng into the West Sea's eye, were all killed by the Great Array. When the Grand Mist Ancestor saw that Junior rescued him, he was afraid that Junior would reveal his whereabouts, so he threw Junior into the Great Array. Grand Mist Ancestor is a heartless person. Back then, Su Ji spent a lot of effort to cultivate him. Fairy Xingyu snorted coldly and said. However, before she could finish, Su Ji said, everyone has their own aspirations. We don't have to force others. Besides, he didn't promise us anything. Hearing Su Ji's words, Xiao Hua felt even more relieved. The Grand Mist Ancestor treated Su Ji so well. Even with Su Ji's strength, Su Ji didn't directly attack the Grand Mist Ancestor. Xiao Hua had helped Su Ji, so how could Su Ji scheme against him? Moreover, Fairy Xingyu had used Princess Baihua's body, and Princess Baihua's memory had a good impression of him. Therefore, Fairy Xingyu shouldn't harm him. Therefore, Xiaohua had decided that no matter how difficult the trip to the Star Moon Palace was, he had to go. Humph, I can't stand seeing you like this. Fairy Xingyu snorted coldly again with an indifferent look on her face. However, the trace of admiration in her eyes revealed her true feelings. In your words, someone bought you, yet you're still helping them count their money. And then? Suji ignored Fairy Xingyu and asked Xiaohua, how did you get out of trouble? The Grand Mist Ancestor was suppressed by the West Sea Eye. I had no choice but to fall into the West Sea Eye under the pressure of the Great Array. Then I rushed into an unknown place along the West Sea Eye. Later, I'm sorry, I fainted from the impact of the space pressure. When I woke up, I was in the Jiangchao ridge of the Longevity Town. Xiaohua's face turned slightly red. He wasn't lying, but he felt that he had lost face because he kept fainting. Suji didn't mind and looked at Fairy Xingyu. Fairy Xingyu nodded. Xiaohua is right. In the Longevity Town's Liao River, there seems to be a Yuzhou cauldron set up by the Confucian Heavenly Court. There should be space meridians there. He might have been lucky and found the space meridian leading to the Longevity Town in the West Sea Eye. That's how he was sent to the Liao River. Fairy Xingyu looked at Xiaohua and said, Xiaohua, you're so lucky. I hope it's still useful in the Star Moon Palace. Of course. Xiaohua says with a smile, since Senior Su treats this junior like this junior's good luck will naturally bring him. However, I also want to ask Fairy Xingyu and Senior Su a question. Oh, go ahead. When we know, we'll definitely tell you. Suji answered without hesitation. I just want to know if there's a space meridian leading to the Dawn Rain continent from the 3 continents. Although Fairy Xingyu had said that she didn't know about the Dawn Rain continent, he still didn't want to give up. Fairy Xingyu smiled bitterly. Xiaohua, didn't I say it before? It's not that we don't want to help you, but the problem is that we don't know which realm the Dawn Rain continent is. How can we help you? Xiaohua looked at Suji, unwilling to give up, and asked, Senior, if possible, can you think about it again? If Xingyu says she doesn't know, then she really doesn't know. Suji shook his head and said, of course, the name of the realm we know may be different from the name you mentioned. Without waiting for Suji to finish speaking, Fairy Xingyu smiled and said, Xiaohua, you're now a human Mahayana realm cultivator, and your strength has reached the upper stage of the 9th grade of essence force. If there are no accidents, you will definitely ascend within 10,000 years or even several thousand years. Why do you have to return to the Dawn Rain continent? Could it be that you can't ascend in the hidden immortal continent? Although the immortal palace of the Confucian cultivators is powerful, with your character of not causing trouble, they won't make things too difficult for you. Xiaohua smiled bitterly. He naturally knew that he didn't need to spend thousands of years, let alone tens of thousands of years. Therefore, he wanted to find a way back to the Dawn Rain continent even more. He also knew that after he ascended, he would probably have no chance to return to the Dawn Rain continent. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said, although I'm a rogue cultivator, I have a beautiful memory in the Imperial Thunder sect of the Dawn Rain continent. Then Xiaohua roughly explained the matter of the Imperial Thunder sect, and finally said, my master had no choice but to sacrifice his life for me, and Xue also sacrificed her life for me. My other dual cultivation partner still doesn't know whether I'm dead or alive. I feel that if I don't return to the Dawn Rain continent, I won't be able to get rid of the lingering thoughts in my heart. That's right. Fairy Xingyu gnashed her teeth and said, you just have to go back and let that snobbish Imperial Thunder sect see that the disciple they expelled is now a Mahayana realm cultivator. A peerless genius who cultivated from the nascent soul realm to the Mahayana realm in just 200 years. Let them regret it until their intestines turn green. However, at this point, she glared at Xiaohua again and said, as for that jealous fairy Hong Xia, it's fine if you don't look for her. I think that little girl Xue is still a good choice. Alas, it's a pity that she's already dead. Fairy Hongxia took advantage of her for nothing. Suji pondered for a moment and said, let's go and see the senior brothers in the Myriad Thunder Valley. Your senior brother Xiang Yang is excellent. You also think of your senior brother in the Punishment Palace? Fairy Xingyu asked gently. Not the senior brother in the Punishment Palace. Suji looked into the distance and said, it's an elder brother in my hometown. When Fairy Xingyu heard this, there was a trace of nostalgia in her eyes. She whispered, that's an extremely distant memory. Xiaohua naturally knew that their hometown was a secret in the hearts of Suji and Fairy Xingyu. He didn't dare to ask more and just watched from the side. After a few minutes, Suji withdrew his gaze from the distance and looked at Fairy Xingyu and said seriously, Xingyu, since we can't return to our hometown, why don't you help Xiaohua? Your law palace must have records of the 3 continents and the surrounding realms. You might as well think of Xiaohua. Yes, I know. Fairy Xingyu nodded and said, although this matter is forbidden in the law palace, I don't think Celestial Master of Law will know about this, right? Suji blinked his eyes and said with a smile, of course not. Fairy Xingyu's face turned slightly red. She looked up at Xiaohua and asked, Xiaohua, first tell me what's so special about the Dawn Rain continent. Also, what was the situation when you came from the Dawn Rain continent to the 3 continents? You didn't faint in the space passage again, did you? I didn't faint this time. Xiaohua said with a smile, I remember the situation in the space passage clearly. Okay, tell me about the situation in the Dawn Rain continent. Fairy Xingyu nodded and asked. Chapter 44-48. After Xiaohua finished explaining the situation of the Dawn Rain continent, Fairy Xingyu and Suji were both surprised. Suji asked, what? You said that there are only Taoist cultivators in the Dawn Rain continent? Oh, there are also sword cultivators and beast cultivators. There are no Confucian cultivators or Buddhist cultivators. There are no demon clans? Yes, there are no traces of Confucian cultivators. There are only Buddhist cultivators. Xiaohua nodded. According to legend, there were Confucian cultivators and Buddhist cultivators in ancient times, but they were all killed by our Taoist cultivators. Impossible. Fairy Xingyu shook her head without hesitation. There is no such realm nearby. Maybe. Suji thought for a moment and said, Xiaohua's cultivation was not high enough, and he might not have experienced many places, so he couldn't have seen the whole Dawn Rain continent. Yes. Xiaohua nodded and said, in the northwest of the Dawn Rain continent, there are so-called soul cultivators who cultivate the 12 great gods. On the other side of the Million Mountains, there seems to be a place called Defeat League. See, you're talking about soul cultivators? Soul cultivators of the 12 great gods? Fairy Xingyu exclaimed, and her face showed even more surprise. Impossible. That's absolutely impossible. What's impossible? Suji was also stunned. He looked at Xiaohua and then at Fairy Xingyu and asked curiously, what are the 12 great gods? What is a soul cultivator? Remember. Fairy Xingyu's face showed a rare look of horror. She said, you must never mention the 12 great gods and soul cultivators in the future. If you still want to live and not be hunted down by the celestial venerables. Suji already understood and nodded. I understand. This is a forbidden power. Then he looked at Xiaohua and said very seriously, Xiaohua. Can you remember? Yes, I understand. From this moment on, I have completely forgotten about the great gods and soul cultivators. Xiaohua's heart trembled and he hurriedly replied. However, he was extremely bitter in his heart. When he was on the Dawn Rain continent, he was afraid of being hunted down by Taoists. When he was on the 3 continents, he was also hunted down by Confucian cultivators. Now that he had finally reached the Grand Ascension stage, he was also afraid of being hunted down by the so-called celestial venerables, just because he was a soul cultivator. Alright, Xiaohua, tell me more about the spatial meridian you passed through. Fairy Xingyu asked solemnly. As far as I can remember, there is absolutely no such space vein. It shouldn't be a spatial vein. Xiaohua hesitated for a moment before saying, Junior feels that it's a few layers of innate restrictions. You. Hearing this, Fairy Xingyu almost jumped up from the ice jade. She looked at Xiaohua in disbelief and said, You actually passed the Great Meru Buddhist Formation, the Five Elements Destruction Formation, and the Clear Song of Time Demon Formation? This, how is this possible? Fairy, so you actually know the names of these innate formations? Xiaohua was overjoyed and said anxiously, Isn't Junior just lucky? Bullshit luck. Fairy Xingyu sat down dejectedly and looked at Su Ji. Why don't you and I have such good luck? Xingyu. Su Ji was obviously confused. He asked curiously, What are you talking about? Why can't I understand? It's right that you don't understand. Fairy Xingyu looked at Su Ji and forced a smile. If you knew, you wouldn't be alive now. Su Ji nodded and did not ask any more questions. After a full 10 minutes, Fairy Xingyu asked again, Xiaohua, tell me in detail, all right. Xiaohua nodded and told her the story. Finally, he said, Junior went from the Guihe Sea, east of the Dawn Rain continent, to the West Sea of the Three Continents. However, in the end, I still fainted. I don't remember where I was in the West Sea. You don't have to regret it. Even if you didn't faint, you definitely wouldn't be able to find that passage again. Fairy Xingyu said with fear on her face. Didn't I say just now? There's the Great Meru Buddhist Formation of the Buddhist sect inside. The passage is so big when you go in, but from the outside, it's smaller than the eye of a needle. The naked eye, Buddhist consciousness, divine thought, eye-clearing technique, and so on can't detect it. Only the three Buddha lords of the Buddhist sect can see it. Moreover, it's said that you have to reach the golden body 6th refinement stage or above. Also, the passage you pass through only exists temporarily. It must have disappeared by now. Xiaohua, I can tell you seriously that you definitely won't be able to return to the Dawn Rain continent, even if you're lucky enough to escape from the heaven prison. Hearing Fairy Xingyu's words, Xiaohua's heart turned cold. He asked helplessly, Fairy, is there really no way at all? Yes. Fairy Xingyu nodded. Because even Su Ji and I can't find the flaws of the three divine prohibitions and safely pass through the Song of Time demon formation, let alone you. Just give up. Sigh, okay. Xiaohua sighed. He also understood that if it wasn't impossible, Fairy Xingyu wouldn't say such a thing. Xiaohua. Su Ji also said, even I don't know about this. It can be seen how secretive this matter is in the immortal world. You must remember it. Yes, this junior understands. Xiaohua answered casually, but he was stunned in an instant. He said in surprise, What? Immortal. Immortal world? Aren't the two seniors from the 10,000 demon realm? What do we have to do with the 10,000 demon realm? Fairy Xingyu looked at Xiaohua's surprise and snorted coldly. The 10,000 demon realm has everything. There's the spirit clan, the demon clan, and the divine clan, but there's no human clan. Su Ji and I are real humans. How can we be from the 10,000 demon realm? But are the seniors really from the immortal world? Xiaohua still couldn't believe it. Isn't it impossible for the immortals from the immortal world to return to the cultivation world? It's impossible to return to the cultivation world normally. Su Ji explained, occasionally, there will be abnormal returns. But as long as they fall into the cultivation world, it will be extremely difficult to return to the immortal world again. TSK. Fairy Xingyu curled her lips and looked at Su Ji. Don't be fooled by him. You gave him so many cultivation methods. I don't believe that he can't guess that you're from the immortal world. Xiaohua shook his head and said, this junior did have this idea, but the problem is that I don't think any immortals can come to the 3 continents, so I can only guess that they're from the 10,000 demon realm. You can return to the 3 continents through the space crack of the heavenly prison. Why can't we? Fairy Xingyue was even more skeptical. Xiao Hua looked at Fairy Xingyue, who was only at the nascent soul stage. He really couldn't associate her with the immortals in his mind. He smiled bitterly and said, "Then, what kind of immortals are you? What's your purpose in coming to the 3 continents? What's the immortal world like?" Su Ji glanced at Xiao Hua and said faintly, "We have no right to tell you what the immortal world is like. Anyway, you'll soon ascend and you'll know in the future. I'm sure you know that there are many things that you shouldn't know until the time is right. This won't be good for you, me, or even Xingyue. It'll even be good for the cultivators of the 3 continents." Okay. Xiao Hua was helpless. In fact, what Su Ji said was right. There were many things that he would never tell Lu Yi and other disciples in advance, so as not to cause too many unforeseen events. He could only nod and say, "Senior, please tell me what you can." "My name is Su Ji. My Taoist name, it's not worth mentioning." Su Ji said, "I'm the punishment envoy of a punishment palace in the immortal realm. My Taoist name is Fairy Xingyue. As for my real name, it's not worth mentioning." Fairy Xingyue, who was next to him, covered her mouth and smiled. She said as if she was talking to Su Ji, "I'm the punishment envoy of a punishment palace in the immortal realm." When Xiao Hua heard this, he felt a headache coming. He smiled bitterly again and said, "Seniors, this explanation doesn't seem to be any different from not explaining, right?" Su Ji ignored him and said, "When I was on a business trip, I happened to encounter a star field starburst in a celestial realm. The star field starburst covered a large area and affected several star fields in succession. I was preparing to escape when I sent a message to the punishment palace. But at that time, my punishment celestial weapon suddenly sensed the location of the immortal slaying stage in the immortal realm. This immortal slaying stage is what was recorded in the jade eyes I gave you at the beginning." Seeing that Xiao Hua was about to speak again, Su Ji hurriedly said, "As for what the immortal slaying stage is and how it was lost, don't ask. I don't know either." "Okay." Xiao Hua opened his mouth and closed it again. He thought to himself, "Since you don't want me to ask, I can't explain. Let's just leave it at that for now. Because the immortal slaying stage is very important to the immortal realm, I didn't dare to neglect it. I wanted to send a message to the punishment palace again, but the star field starburst was approaching. I didn't dare to stay for long. I hurriedly found a gap in the star field starburst and went to find it according to the celestial weapon of punishment. But before I found the immortal slaying stage, I met Fairy Xingyu." Su Ji glanced at Fairy Xingyu. Su Ji is the punishment envoy, the immortal envoy who carries out punishments. Fairy Xingyu continued, "I am the punishment envoy. My duty is to control the immortal law and punish according to the law. Since I want to control the immortal law, I have to investigate all the star fields in the celestial realm. It's somewhat similar to the inspector in the immortal palaces of the 3 continents. When I met Su Ji, I received a secret order from the Celestial Venerable of Justice. I was following the law to check some immortal restrictions in a certain celestial realm. I had just ascertained the situation of the immortal restrictions and was about to send a message to the Celestial Venerable. But at that time, I suddenly discovered that a Confucian cultivator from the heavenly court had barged into the immortal realm. This Confucian cultivator had become a demon and wanted to sacrifice the immortals in the star field. When I discovered this, the blood sacrifice had already begun. The stars began to explode one by one, gradually forming a terrifying star field starburst. I didn't dare to neglect it and hurriedly sent a message about the star field starburst to the Palace of Justice. Unfortunately, before I could send the message, I was discovered by the Confucian cultivator who had become a demon. That Confucian cultivator should have a cultivation level that was slightly higher than mine. I fought with him for a while and realized that I was no match for him. I hurriedly prepared to escape and ask for help. The Confucian cultivator pursued me step by step. Unable to escape, I risked my life to escape into the star field starburst. But the Confucian cultivator didn't care about his own life and chased after me. At that time, I met Su Ji. Chapter 44-49. Fairy Xingyu and I didn't know each other at first. Su Ji said again, but when I saw her being chased by the Confucian cultivator, I couldn't just leave her be, so I hurried forward to help. However, that Confucian cultivator was really powerful. Even when the two of us joined forces, he was not at a disadvantage. The two of us couldn't fight and retreat at the same time. We wanted to use the power of the star storm to kill him or escape. But in the end, we were forced to the center of the star storm. Seeing that we had no way out, Fairy Xingyu and I decided to perish together with the Confucian cultivator. That guy seemed to have lost his mind. He activated the celestial imperial equipment and directly fought with us. Under the huge impact and the star storm, Fairy Xingyu and I were seriously injured. From the space destroyed by the star storm, we fell to the 3 continents. Seeing that Xiao Hua was not surprised, Fairy Xingyu was a little depressed. She asked curiously, Xiao Hua, do you think we are lying to you? Xiao Hua shook his head lightly. No. I think you are telling the truth. This is no different from me falling into the heaven prison. That's true. Fairy Xingyu nodded. I was very surprised when I heard that the two of you were immortals. But if you think about it carefully, immortals can't easily return to the cultivation world. Since the 2 seniors have returned, there must have been an unforeseen event. As for what unforeseen event it is, the biggest possibility is that it is similar to this junior's experience. Xiao Hua explained. Using myself as an example, this junior understands. After arriving at the 3 continents, we naturally had to determine the realm we were in. Su Ji didn't think as much as Fairy Xingyu. He said, but when we found out that this was the essence qi of heaven and earth, not the immortal spirit qi of the immortal world, our hearts sank. So we didn't dare to think about anything else and began to heal ourselves. After our injuries were healed, we began to discuss how to get out of here. Alas, Su Ji sent some information back to the punishment palace. I only sent back news about the star storm. Speaking of what had happened back then, Fairy Xingyu was still a little regretful. And because of the star storm, we don't know if those messages could be received by the punishment palace and the punishment palace. However, seeing that there hasn't been any news for so many years, they probably haven't received it. Star Moon, that might not be the case. Su Ji comforted him. Perhaps they have already received it and are searching for it in the nearby star fields. How many star fields are there in an immortal domain, and how many realms are there under a star field? How many realms will be lost if the star storm destroys the star field? Fairy Xingyu smiled bitterly and shook her head. Even if the celestial venerative discipline personally searched, he might not be able to find it. Not to mention, I received a secret order. The Palm Palace doesn't even know that I'm in this nearby star region. Seniors, you can start cultivating again. Xiao Hua rolled his eyes and suggested in a low voice, as long as you cultivate to the Grand Ascension stage, you'll be able to ascend again soon, right? Unexpectedly, Fairy Xingyu immediately saw through Xiao Hua's thoughts and said, What? Do you want to find out the secret of ascension? I won't tell you. Su Ji looked at Xiao Hua and said, Do you think we don't want to? However, the so-called ascension is when the strength of a cultivator in the 3 continents reaches the highest level. The laws of the 3 continents no longer allow him to exist. Then, the laws of thunder will descend, which is the so-called thunder tribulation. The thunder tribulation will rewrite the laws of the cultivator. If the cultivator can't be rewritten by the laws, he will fail to pass the tribulation. The cultivator will disappear and become a part of the laws. If he is lucky enough to be rewritten by the laws, he will pass the tribulation successfully. The laws of the cultivator will be attracted by the laws of the immortal world and will go to the immortal world. To put it bluntly, the chi of heaven and earth in the cultivator's body will be changed into immortal chi by the thunder tribulation. This nascent immortal chi will be rejected by the chi of heaven and earth of the three continents. In each immortal realm of the immortal world, there is a corresponding spirit cleansing pool. The spirit cleansing pool attracts cultivators who have ascended. After the spirit cleansing pool solidifies the laws, the chi of heaven and earth in the cultivator's body will be completely cleansed and turned into immortal chi. They will become mortal fairies. At this point, seeing that Su Ji was about to continue, Fairy Xingyu quickly interrupted him and said, "Although we are immortals, the immortal chi in our bodies has been cleansed by the spirit cleansing pool. Therefore, the spirit cleansing pool can't sense us, so we can't ascend." Hee hee. Xiao Hua laughed. "Seniors, you can take over my body." "The laws." Xiao Hua. Fairy Xingyu said with a smile, "The so-called immortal chi is just an appearance. The most fundamental thing is that the laws have changed. There are probably not many immortals in the immortal world who know where the laws have changed. However, one thing is very clear. The soul must have the mark of the laws. Immortals can't ascend from the lower world again." Hiss. Although Fairy Xingyu and Su Ji deliberately avoided talking about ascension to avoid confusing Xiao Hua couldn't help but gasp when he heard this. "Damn it, I'm afraid that little white dragon is in trouble. These doppelgangers of mine will also have problems." However, Xiao Hua thought for a moment and asked, "Although the two seniors can't ascend, but the two seniors can still cultivate disciples and let them pass the message to the Palace of Punishment and the Palace of Justice after they ascend?" Fairy Xingyu rolled her eyes at him and said, "Do you think we don't want to? We have much more than you think that day." Su Ji explained, "After we recovered from our injuries, we immediately searched for the realms and star regions where the three continents were located. However, when we saw that there were only Confucian cultivators, Buddhists, and the demon clan on the three continents, we were even more disappointed." Xingyue seemed to know some secrets. She said that this was the realm after the immortals and Buddhists had been destroyed. It also corresponded to this star region. I seem to have heard of the corresponding spirit cleansing pool in that star region. At this point, Su Ji's face showed a trace of embarrassment. He looked at Xiao Hua and said, "I didn't want to tell you, but I have to tell you the truth. Of course, what I said to Xingyue is just some speculation and can't be taken seriously. I hope it won't affect your cultivation." Without needing Su Ji to say more, Xiao Hua nodded and said, "Is that spirit cleansing pool gone? The cultivators of the three continents can't ascend? How should I put it?" Su Ji explained, "The spirit cleansing pool still exists, but because it hasn't been used for a long time, I'm afraid it has been abandoned. Because I'm the punishment envoy of the punishment palace, I have some impression of the location of the spirit cleansing pool. That's how I know there is such a spirit cleansing pool." "That's good." Xiao Hua breathed a sigh of relief and said with a smile, "Since there is still a spirit cleansing pool, that's good. After all, one can ascend." Actually, Su Ji wanted to explain, but Fairy Xingyu hurriedly said, "Su Ji, didn't we already talk about this before? There are so many secrets of the immortal world. It's best if you don't know." Su Ji looked at Xiao Hua, thought for a moment and said, "Forget it. Since we're talking about this, it's better to make it clear and let him be prepared." Fairy Xingyu glared at Xiao Hua and could only keep quiet. "Actually, if the spirit cleansing pool no longer exists, you can also ascend and even fly to other spirit cleansing pools. At the very least, you may appear near the spirit cleansing pool. At that time, you may face a powerful immortal beast. You may have a slim chance of survival." Su Ji said, "But the spirit cleansing pool here is abandoned. If you ascend, you can only go to this spirit cleansing pool. And near this spirit cleansing pool, there are no immortal envoys from the immortal world. The one who may welcome you is the immortal envoys of the heavenly court. Or you may encounter other immortal envoys of the heavenly court. Junior understands." Xiaohua smiled bitterly and said, if you encounter an immortal beast, you may have a slim chance of survival. But if you encounter an immortal envoys of the heavenly court, I'm afraid there is no chance of survival. Indeed. Su Ji nodded. This is also the reason why we don't dare to act rashly. If the immortal envoys of the heavenly court know that we are in the 3 continents, we will also be hunted down by them. We will lose all hope of returning to the immortal world. At this point, Su Ji looked at Xiaohua again and said seriously, of course, Xiaohua, if you help me and Fairy Xingyu return to the immortal world, we will definitely find the corresponding spirit cleansing pool of the 3 continents. We will definitely not let you fall into the desperate situation you mentioned earlier. You can rest assured about this. Senior, don't worry. Junior also understands this matter. If I can help you, I will help myself. As long as I can do it, I will definitely do it. Suddenly, a smile appeared on Xiaohua's face again. Hee hee. Junior has a good idea. I don't know if the 2 seniors are willing to listen. Ha. Fairy Xingyu laughed bitterly and said, you don't have to say any more. You are talking about the magic treasure in your hand, the Kunlun mirror, right? Senior. Xiaohua was shocked and said anxiously, what other secrets do I have that you don't know? You didn't hide from others when you used the Kunlun mirror. How is that a secret? Fairy Xingyu glared at him and replied, besides, the Kunlun wonderland in the Kunlun mirror is not a secret. Su Ji said with a smile, Xiaohua is also thinking for us. We should be happy. What? He wants the 2 of us to be his bodyguards. Does he think that I can't see what he is thinking? Fairy Xingyu saw through Xiaohua's thoughts. Xiaohua only smiled and did not say anything. His thoughts were about space. Of course, it was beyond Fairy Xingyu's expectations. All magic treasures have the foundation of casting, Su Ji explained with a smile. Su Ji explained with a smile, magic tools, magic treasures, and even spirit treasures used in the 3 continents can't be brought to the immortal world. Because in the thunder tribulation, anything that does not conform to the law of thunder will be obliterated. Famous ancient magic treasures like the Kunlun mirror and those heaven's spiritual treasures can be brought to the immortal world, but the laws in these spiritual treasures will also be changed. For example, isn't the Kunlun wonderland in the Kunlun mirror? The Kunlun wonderland in the 3 continents is different from the one in the immortal world. If you take the Kunlun mirror to go through the tribulation, the Kunlun wonderland in it will be completely erased and then rebuilt with immortal chi. If you don't want to take the Kunlun mirror to go through the tribulation, it will not be able to follow you into the immortal world. Moreover, even if you use some secret technique to bring it up, as long as you take out the Kunlun mirror, the law of the immortal world will rebuild the Kunlun wonderland. Therefore, even if you take us into the Kunlun wonderland, we can only be obliterated and have no way to survive. Chapter 4450. What about using the free time after the tribulation transcendence? Xiaohua asked, unwilling to give up. At that time, the Kunlun immortal realm could not be built at all. How could you take us in? Seeing that Xiaohua did not believe her, Fairy Xingyu was a little angry. Do you think we don't want to use your Kunlun mirror? All right. Xiaohua's heart already felt a little more at ease, so he casually replied. Since Su Ji had said so, the Kunlun immortal realm in the Kunlun mirror had to be reconstructed due to the different spatial laws. However, Shenhua continent was not a Dharma artifact that he had refined. Shenhua continent was not affected by the laws of the ruins and the primitive continent. It was obviously an independent space. The rewriting of the laws that he had encountered during his ascension should not affect Shenhua continent. If he could ascend, he could naturally take Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu with him. However, Xiaohua did not know how to persuade the 2 immortals to enter Shenhua continent. After all, in their hearts, the Kunlun immortal realm was a place where death was inevitable. Moreover, Xiaohua did not know if his Shenhua continent could take in 2 immortals. There was still some time before his ascension, so he was not in a hurry to make things clear with the 2 immortals. Of course, Xiaohua had already made up his mind. If possible, he had to take the two of them with him. Otherwise, even if he ascended, he would not be able to defeat the immortal officials of the heavenly court. Xiaohua thought for a moment and said with a smile, "The two of you are very unlucky. If you had landed in the Dawn Rain continent where I was, there would not have been so much trouble." "That's not necessarily true." Fairy Xingyu pursed her lips. "The immortal world is not a place of singing and dancing. Who knows who will get the news if we bring it up? If anything happens, we won't even know how we died. We might as well think of a way to go up ourselves." "That's true." Xiaohua agreed. "Why don't you tell me how to return to the Dawn Rain continent? After I ascend, I will send the news of the two immortals to the Palace of Justice and the Palace of Punishment." "Don't even think about it. That's impossible." Fairy Xingyu shook her head coldly. "All right, just pretend that I didn't say anything." Xiaohua was depressed. He looked at Fairy Xingyu helplessly and said with a smile, "It seems that it's impossible to enter the immortal realm again by relying on cultivation." Xiaohua's words immediately conveyed his depression to Fairy Xingyu. She also replied gloomily, "Yes, the normal way of cultivation will definitely not work." "Well, since I can't cultivate it, I can only go back to my original plan, which is to rely on the passageway. For example, the broken space of a primitive world like the heavenly prison." Xiaohua nodded and said, "Then I don't understand. Why are you two so painstakingly investigating the Star Moon Palace? Could it be that the Star Moon Palace is really an immortal palace that fell from the ancient immortal world? Even so, what was the use of a fallen palace? Unless there was a passageway leading to the immortal realm in the Star Moon Palace, but if there was." Fairy Xingyu was a law envoy and had investigated all the star regions near the immortal realm. How could she not know about this passageway and not be able to find it? Moreover, Senior Su said that I was able to come out of the heavenly prison because of the appearance of the Star Moon Palace. How did Senior Su know? I don't know if there is a passageway in the Star Moon Palace. I have never heard of the Star Moon Palace in the Law Palace. Fairy Xingyu shook her head and said, "We only discovered the Star Moon Palace for the first time in the 3 continents. Then, how do you know that there is a passageway to the immortal realm in the Star Moon Palace?" Xiaohua was even more puzzled. However, when he glanced at Su Ji, he understood and said with a smile, "Could it be Senior Su's divination skill again?" "That's right." Su Ji replied, "Whether there is a way to go to the immortal realm in the Star Moon Palace or a passageway to the immortal realm, Xingyue and I don't know. It's just that when we thought about it to no avail, I took the risk of my body collapsing and my soul dispersing to perform the divination skill. Although the art of divination only indicated a rough time and location, we saw the Star Moon Palace at the right place and in the right location. In the Star Moon Palace, we also found a starry sky with the aura of the immortal realm, so we can only think that the Star Moon Palace is the only way to return to the immortal realm. Before us, there was no Star Moon Palace in the 3 continents. The name of the Star Moon Palace was given by me." Fairy Xingyu continued, "As for whether the palace called the Star Moon Palace appeared before us, we don't know. Moreover, from the information that Xingyu gathered in the 3 continents, there was no record of it. However, after we entered the Star Moon Palace for the first time and found the aura of the immortal realm, we couldn't find the original aura for the second time. Therefore, we had no choice but to spread the news of the Star Moon Palace to the 3 continents and set up the Star Moon Palace to search for it together. Obviously, there is strength in numbers. In the 4th and 5th times, we did find the starry sky where we found the aura of the immortal realm. However, because we couldn't find a way to go deeper, we were pushed out by the Star Moon Palace. However, other than you, there is no 4th person who knows the real purpose of this matter." "Yes, this junior understands." Xiaohua nodded and looked at Su Ji. "Senior Su, can you tell this junior about the situation in the Star Moon Palace?" Su Ji looked at Fairy Xingyu. The two of them exchanged glances and nodded slightly. Then, Suji looked at Xiaohua and said, "Actually, when I discussed with Fairy Xingyu about the internal affairs of the Star Moon Palace, I did not intend to tell you." "Oh? Why?" Xiaohua was a little puzzled. "It's very simple." Suji smiled bitterly. "I have entered the Star Moon Palace a total of 8 times with Fairy Xingyu. Other than the fact that the outline of the Star Moon Palace was exactly the same when it appeared, everything inside was different. Only in a certain part of the starry sky could we see the aura of the immortal realm. In other places, other than the rumbling of thunder, there were some inexplicable starry sky and light silhouettes. These light silhouettes were very strange. They were different every time. Sometimes, they were sunken in different star shapes. Sometimes, they were some magical weapons. Sometimes, they were some mysterious lines. There were also times when they were actually some heads. There were many more on the left and right. Of course, just from the surface, it seemed that something like a token was needed to be placed inside to open the starry sky or light silhouettes. However, this so-called token was very strange. We searched the hidden immortal continent, the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, and the Pure Land but could not find it. Even though Fairy Xingyu controlled the stars and moons and could see all kinds of strange things every day, and every time we entered the Star Moon Palace, we were fully prepared. However, it seemed that something was missing every time. It was impossible to open the starry sky. In the end, to tell you the truth, even we felt despair. Therefore, if I told you about this situation, would you still help us wholeheartedly? If I were to deceive you with a lie, to be honest, I would not do it. Of course, in the Star Moon Palace, you can comprehend the power of the stars and moons at a higher level. I did not lie to the cultivators of the 3 continents about this. As for what they can comprehend from the power of the stars and moons, I do not know. Apart from this, are there any other dangers in the Star Moon Palace? Xiaohua frowned and asked. Apart from the thunder, which is sometimes very strange and can shatter a cultivator's body so that even his soul cannot escape, there are also some unknown immortal beasts. Fairy Xingyu seemed to have a lingering fear as she said, "These immortal beasts are extremely powerful. I have never heard of them before. If one encounters these immortal beasts, there is basically no chance of survival. There is also an even more inexplicable attack. It seems that there is a restriction in the void." Suji explained, "If one encounters this attack, it seems that there is no way to avoid it. I have seen with my own eyes 4 demon clan members who were about the sun-devouring realm being annihilated by this restriction in an instant." "Oh my." Xiaohua was dumbfounded. "So, it's completely based on luck?" "Yes, otherwise, how could I find you, the cultivator with the best luck in the world?" Fairy Xingyu smiled and nodded. "At first, I did not believe in Suji's divination skills, but after hearing that you were able to escape from the heaven prison, the hope of whether Suji and I can return to the immortal realm is on your shoulders." Xiaohua curled his lips. "Fairy, it is not that you do not believe in Senior Su's divination skills, but that you do not believe that I can help you." Speaking of this, Xiaohua rolled his eyes again and said with a smile, "Senior Su, how did you practice your divination skills? Why haven't I heard you mention it? I don't know what conclusion you have reached with your divination skills. Your jade eyes did not make it very clear. 1 thunder gives birth to 2 qis, and 2 qis give birth to all things. Understanding the evolution of thunder naturally allows one to practice divination skills." Suji did not hide it and explained, "Although you have cultivated the 10,000 June Thunderbolt, you still have not reached the level of practicing divination skills. Naturally, I will not tell you. In fact, what I can get from divination skills is not much. It is similar to what was said in the Jade Eyes. That is to say, my chances are linked to yours. If I were to divine further, whether it is me, Goddess Xingyue, or Xingyue Palace, there would be no more traces. Therefore, this trip is the last chance. Either I succeed, or..." When he spoke up to here, Suji was unable to continue. There seemed to be some secrets hidden within those cold lines that were like iron and stone. Clap, clap, clap. Xiao Hua smiled and clapped his hands. Do you still need to say it? Of course, it was a success. If it was not a success, how could it not be possible for the divination to fail? Senior Su, you are too careful. Don't worry, the so-called luck of a Confucian cultivator is just a breath of my qi. Is this kind of luck not enough for me to fart? With my help, how could it not be a success? That's good. Su Ji squeezed out a rare smile on his face. Chapter 44-51. If that's the case. Xiao Hua's face showed a trace of slyness again. He smiled and said, I want to ask another question. What kind of evil idea do you have now? Fairy Xingyu asked warily. Nothing. Xiao Hua blinked and said, we cultivators of the cultivation world can't bring anything with us when we ascend to the immortal world. Then what about the seniors who came to the cultivation world from the immortal world? Hee. Fairy Xingyu seemed to understand what Xiao Hua meant and said with a smile, the same Stygian immortal slip can naturally be used. Ordinary immortal weapons will have their power reduced due to different nomological laws, but they can still be used. Seniors can't use the ink immortal slip for a long time. Xiao Hua finally revealed his real purpose. They must have recorded the cultivation methods, secret techniques, pill formulas, etc., in the jade eyes or ink cloud eyes. Seniors can't bring these things to the immortal world. In that case, you might as well give them to me for safekeeping. Xiao Hua, you money grubber. Fairy Xingyu couldn't help laughing and said, Su Ji, you don't know. He asked about my wind escape technique on the way and wanted me to pass it on to him. Why not? Su Ji replied faintly, he's right. We can't take it away anyway. It's rare to meet such a Taoist cultivator who cares about the people of the world. Although this kind of weirdo is a little petty, he's better than those who don't take the lives of the people seriously. With that, Su Ji raised his hand without hesitation, took out a dozen sumaru rings from his arms and handed them to Xiao Hua. He said, these are the cultivation methods and the things I've collected. I'll give them all to you. Who knows if these things can be kept when we pass through the space channel? It's better to give them to you. Ah. Ha ha ha. Xiao Hua was ecstatic. He took the sumaru rings and couldn't close his mouth. He laughed and said, thank you, senior. Thank you. However, when he scanned it with his divine sense, he was stunned. There were not only ink cloud eyes and jade eyes, but also strange things. They were the ink immortal slips that Fairy Xingyu mentioned. And there were many of them. Senior. Xiao Hua was dumbfounded and whispered, these, it's all right, you can keep it for now. Su Ji didn't wait for Xiao Hua to finish and said, I know you like strange things. You can think about it. Anyway, it wasn't taught by this Su. If you can learn something from it, it might be good for you. Yes. Xiao Hua felt a burst of warmth in his heart. How could he not know Su Ji's intention of nurturing him? He hurriedly responded and put everything away. Xingyue, you belong to the Palace of Justice and no more secrets. Just give the wind escape technique to Xiao Hua. There's no need for anything else. Su Ji looked at Fairy Xingyue and whispered. She seemed to be angry with Su Ji. Before Su Ji could finish, Fairy Xingyue said coldly, you are so generous. Doesn't the Punishment Palace have any secrets? You even dared to teach Xiao Hua the 30,000 June Thunderbolt, so why wouldn't I dare? Here. Fairy Xingyu was even more amazing. She had taken out dozens of spatial rings. Xiao Hua's eyes were dazzled. How could Xiao Hua dare to take it? He hurriedly waved his hand and said, Fairy, forget it. Senior Su has given me enough. I don't want these. Are you looking down on me? Fairy Xingyu asked, glancing at him. Xiao Hua hurriedly replied, no, no. Didn't Senior Su say that? There are many secrets in the Palace of Justice. I'm afraid of getting into trouble. Who told you that I gave you something from the Palace of Justice? Fairy Xingyu scolded with a smile. Xingyue comes into contact with all kinds of strange things almost every day. I've been in charge of Xingyue for so many years. Don't tell me I don't have some secret techniques. Really? Xiao Hua was overjoyed. With a sweep of his divine consciousness, the dozens of spatial rings immediately disappeared from his eyes. You are really a miser. Fairy Xingyu couldn't help but laugh again. She looked at Su Ji and said, I've been with Su Ji in the 3 continents for so long. Except for that treacherous Hong Meng, we haven't taken in any disciples. We have some things to teach you, but first, there's not enough time. Second, there's nothing to teach in the 3 continents. If there's a chance, we'll talk about it when we reach the immortal world. Yes, thank you, seniors. Xiao Hua was overjoyed again. Su Ji raised his hand and patted Xiao Hua on the shoulder, saying, my name and Xingyue's name won't change. When you arrive in the immortal realm, you can come to us. You're a rogue cultivator and don't have any foundation in the immortal realm. I'm afraid it won't be easy for you to cultivate. Yes. Xiao Hua suddenly laughed and said, can I also follow you into the immortal realm? You dare to sneak into the immortal realm in front of the law envoy and the punishment envoy? Fairy Xingyu laughed and said, aren't you afraid that I'll charge you with violating the immortal law and let Su Ji carry out the punishment? I'm just saying. Xiao Hua laughed. Su Ji said earnestly, although you can sneak into the immortal realm and use some channels to get the spirit cleansing liquid to build your body, you'll be no different from an ordinary mortal fairy. However, it's not recorded in the immortal book. As the saying goes, if you don't have a proper name, you can't do it openly in the immortal realm. Therefore, I suggest that you go through the thunder tribulation to become an immortal. Okay, I understand. Xiao Hua wasn't thinking about himself. He was also thinking about the future of Shenhua continent in the space. However, it seemed that Su Ji, the punishment envoy, was very impartial. Xiao Hua didn't dare to reveal anything. He just said casually, actually, even if you can't return to the immortal realm through the Star Moon Palace, you can still live freely in the 3 continents, right? If that's the case, Xiao Hua, why do you have to look for the way back to the Dawn Rain continent? Fairy Xingyu glanced at Xiao Hua indifferently and asked, you've cultivated to the Mahayana stage of the human clan in the 3 continents and experienced the most important part of your life. You should have deeper feelings for the 3 continents. Xiao Hua touched his nose and was speechless. Su Ji didn't retort like Fairy Xingyu. Instead, he said, when we were in despair, we also had this plan. However, we are immortals. Most of our bodies are filled with immortal qi, and our souls are also filled with the laws of the immortal realm. Our physical bodies can't exist on the 3 continents for long. The ubiquitous essence qi of heaven and earth corrodes our physical bodies all the time. You must have seen that Fairy Xingyu couldn't avoid the collapse of her physical body. At this time, she had no choice but to occupy the body of Princess Baihua. Although Princess Baihua's body is more suitable for Fairy Xingyu, her physical body hasn't been tempered by the spirit-washing liquid, so it can't contain Fairy Xingyu's soul. She used a secret technique to nourish herself for nearly 200 years and only dared to come out of seclusion recently. And her strength has faded too much. Although I was a little stronger than Fairy Xingyue before, I've performed divination twice, which has greatly eroded my physical body. I can already feel that in less than 100 years, my physical body will collapse. I have no choice but to find a usable body. In fact, a few years ago, I've already advised Su Ji that it's best to prepare for a rainy day and find a way out for himself first. Fairy Xingyu's gaze fell on Su Ji with warmth. But he has always disagreed. He doesn't want to interfere with another person's life, nor does he want to take another person's life for no reason. I'm the punishment envoy of the Punishment Palace, in charge of the punishment fairy weapon of the immortal world. If I don't have the most basic self-discipline in my heart, how can I be fair? Su Ji replied faintly. Aren't you the same? Although you've taken over Princess Baihua's body, I know that if nothing unexpected happens, your physical body can last for another 100 years. For the same belief, you mentioned abandoning your physical body. You've also lost a lot of cultivation. One is marked by the company one keeps. Fairy Xingyu pursed her lips and smiled. I've always heard you say this, so I can't help but be self-disciplined. In the face of Fairy Xingyu's exposed thoughts, Suji changed the topic. He looked up at the starry sky and said disconsolately, in my hometown, there's an idiom to describe people without souls. It's called the walking dead. I thought, if my soul stayed in someone else's physical body, would it still be me? I'm afraid I'm no different from a walking dead, right? Fairy Xingyu raised her eyebrows and was about to get angry. However, after thinking for a while, she became dejected. She whispered, Su Ji, tell me about your hometown. I've told you so much, but you've never mentioned your hometown. Hometown? Xiaohua asked curiously, the hometown you mentioned earlier. Isn't it the immortal world? Of course not. Fairy Xingyu rolled her eyes at Xiaohua. The hometown that immortals talk about is the place where they ascend. If you ascend, the 3 continents will be your hometown. Oh. Xiaohua nodded. I see. Su Ji didn't pay any attention to Xiaohua. He gazed at the stars for the time it took to finish a cup of tea, and then he said, Xingyue, it's not that I don't want to tell you about my hometown. It's just that my hometown can't compare to the neon glow galaxy, nor can it compare to the 3 main continents. A place of the last days? What do you mean? Xiaohua asked, puzzled. The so-called place of the last days is the place where the path of cultivation is destroyed. Fairy Xingyu looked sympathetic. She glanced at Xiaohua and explained, there are many reasons for the destruction of the path of cultivation. It could be the loss of the cultivation method, the dissipation of the qi of heaven and earth, or the blockage of the ascension passage. Didn't Su Ji say that before? After the starburst, many realms will lose contact with the star field, which means they will lose contact with the spirit cleansing pool in the immortal realm. Those realms may become a place of the last days. There are no records of my hometown in the immortal realm. I don't know its corresponding name in the galaxy in the immortal realm. I only know that galaxy is called the Milky Way, and the blue planet I'm on is called Earth. Su Ji looked at the strange starry sky and said, until now, I still don't know why Earth and the Milky Way became a place of the last days. However, Earth does not have the qi of heaven and earth. All the cultivation methods have disappeared. Chapter 44-52. Then how did you cultivate? Fairy Xingyu asked sympathetically. When I was 18 years old, I obtained the punishment celestial weapon of the immortal world. Su Ji's gaze seemed to pass through time and space and fall on another distant world. Su Ji's story was not long, and there were some parts that Su Ji did not explain clearly. However, under Fairy Xingyu's questioning, Su Ji spoke for a full hour. Xiaohua listened with interest. After all, this was another immortal's cultivation world. But in the end, Xiaohua sighed again. Su Ji had his own hometown, Earth, and Fairy Xingyu had her own hometown, the Neon Glow Galaxy. Where was his hometown? The 3 continents? The Dawn Rain continent? Perhaps he would only know when his memory was restored. Su Ji, it's really not easy for you to become the punishment envoy of the Punishment Palace. Fairy Xingyu also expressed deep sympathy. Compared to you, my cultivation is simply a smooth path. Everyone has their own path, so there's no need to compare. Su Ji said faintly, just like the Law Palace and the Punishment Palace, why bother with each other's gains and losses? Just do your own thing. Hee, that's right. Fairy Xingyu nodded and said, if it weren't for the Sovereign of Justice and the Sovereign of Punishment, how could the Punishment Palace and the Law Palace be incompatible? Speaking of this, Suji looked up at the barrier and said, "The sky is bright and the rain has stopped. Shall we go to the Chitty River now?" "No, there's no need to be in such a hurry, right?" Fairy Xingyu seemed to be enjoying her time with Suji and answered reluctantly. Xiaohua also hurriedly said, "That's right. Senior Su, you've said so much, but you still haven't told me how this junior will help you." "It's very simple," Suji said concisely. "Use your divine sense, which is very sensitive to the power of the stars and the moon, to find the exit in the starry sky maze and the immortal chi. Then, use the power of thunder to help me break the restriction." "Ah. It's that simple?" Xiaohua was a little dumbfounded. "Senior, don't lie to me. That's simple." Fairy Xingyu shouted, "We found that starry sky maze formation 5 times. Each time, we entered a different place. Later, we used the magical powers of tens of thousands of cultivators to find the exit of the immortal chi twice. As for that restriction, even Su Ji couldn't break it with his strength. Do you think you can? Alright, just pretend I didn't say anything." Xiaohua curled his lips. He was somewhat disapproving. He was very confident in his sense of direction in the void. The more others were unable to do it, the more he could do it. As for the restrictive spell, Xiaohua did not believe that Reverend Yun's Pangu axe could not break it. At the thought of Reverend Yun, Xiaohua asked hastily, "Oh right, can we use Cosmos bags in Star Moon Palace?" "There are some places where you can," Fairy Xingyu replied without hesitation. "If so, how many cultivators can enter Star Moon Palace?" Xiaohua asked again. Fairy Xingyu answered with great familiarity, "Over the years, Star Picking Tower has recruited about 49,000 people from Tao League, Confucian cultivators, Buddhist sect, and the Demon Clan. All Confucian aristocratic families above the 3rd class would send people, and 60% of the aristocratic families below the 3rd class would send people. The Buddhist sect's guardians would send people. As for the Demon Clan, there are even more. After all, the Demon Clan is more sensitive to the power of the stars and moon. Star Moon Palace has appeared in the 1,000 Demons' sacred realm. If we count, there are about 60,000 people." "So many?" Xiaohua was dumbfounded. Star Moon Palace was a famous ancient ruin in the 3 continents. Xiaohua already felt that it was a lot to be qualified to enter a few hundred of them. Who would have thought that 60,000 people could enter at once? How was this training? It was more like sightseeing. Hehe, Xingyue has been preparing for so long. Isn't it for this day? 50,000 people is not a lot. Fairy Xingyu said with a grin. Xiaohua also smiled. If there were only a few hundred people, the 10,000 people he brought would be very eye-catching. However, since there were already 60,000 people going in, his 10,000 people were nothing. Junior also wants to bring some Fortune Gate disciples in. It won't affect anything, right? Xiaohua asked tentatively. You want to take advantage of me again? Fairy Xingyu snapped. Can't you not take advantage of me? No, as long as I live, I won't stop taking advantage of you. Xiaohua replied decisively. Su Ji glanced at Xiaohua and said, It doesn't matter. Anyone can go in, as long as you find a place where you can use the Kunlun mirror. Hehe, many thanks, senior. Xiaohua's smile was even brighter than Xiaohua's. In addition to what senior said earlier, if there's anything junior needs to do in the Star Moon Palace, please feel free to tell me. Humph, don't worry. Fairy Xingyu snorted coldly. We have already entered 8 times. If we can avoid borrowing your help, we will try our best not to. If you bring too many disciples in, you have to let them be careful of the dangers inside. After all, that kind of risk is almost unavoidable. Yes, Junior understands. Xiaohua nodded respectfully. Then, the 3 of them discussed for a while before Fairy Xingyu removed the starlight boundary. Su Ji also scattered the waterfall water boundary. The waterfall fell on the stone wall again, roaring as it fell. Suji and Fairy Xingyu glanced at each other. They did not tell Xiaohua that this waterfall was where they had first lost it in the 3 continents. Then, the 3 of them moved and flew toward the Chitty River in the east of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. When the stars of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm shone brightly, the Great Sacred Hall was the center of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, where the stars gathered. The stars that were originally the rulers of the starry skies fell on a star shadow somewhere in the Great Sage Hall. When the star materialized, another star pattern, mixed with the essence of the stars, fell into the Great Sage Hall. Inside the Great Sage Hall, the Phoenix Wu had already transformed into an enormous desolate chaos demon. The astral runes landed on the 132 billion points. A astral rune was engraved on it, and the Phoenix Wu's body rose a few feet higher. This situation was very similar to when Feng Wu became a great saint. However, at this time, the starry sky was all around Feng Wu, and the stars that the other great saints had transformed into did not appear. By the time all the stars in the Great Sacred Hall had materialized, Feng Wu was already inside the Great Sacred Hall. He floated to the surface of the Great Sacred Hall. The last star pattern was on his body, and his body had become one with the Great Sacred Hall. Boom! The entire Great Sage Hall shone with incomparably dazzling starlight. The void was filled with light, and even the tiniest of spatial cracks could be seen. At the same time, the entire Great Sage Hall had long disappeared. A star that had never appeared before emerged from the surface of the Great Sage Hall. The light shadow was more ferocious than the sun. It spread in all directions in the void. In the light shadow, the void was pierced and collapsed. The star of the stars had actually appeared in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Caw! In the starlight, a phoenix cry that shook the void rang out. The star of the stars instantly collapsed, and all the stars instantly turned into star marks. Feng Wu's body that had become a saint appeared from the stars. Feng Wu's demonic body was extremely huge. The star marks formed by the collapse of the stars were only 10% of his entire demonic body. The rest of his demonic body was still ethereal and gray. Even so, an incomparably vast and ferocious aura filled the entire void like a tidal wave. The great saint of the starry sky. The star of the stars. The saint of the saints. In the eyes of the golden-winged great rocks and the others, a 7-star great saint was already a peerless saint. However, they still underestimated the heavenly phoenix's covetousness. The saint of the saints was the heavenly phoenix's goal. Only a demon with the bloodline of the absolute saint could become the saint of the saints. Of course, the Thousand Demons' sacred realm was only one of the many realms, and the Great Sage Hall was only one of the many demon holy lands. The heavenly phoenix's path was still very long. The heavenly phoenix great saint revealed his saint of the saint's body, and the image of the desolate stars appeared in his eyes. His gaze was fixed on a certain spot in the void. At this moment, the void rumbled with thunder that resembled a horned dragon. The power of laws of the 3 continents surged in from all directions, not allowing the heavenly phoenix great saint to resist at all. A trace of mockery appeared in the heavenly phoenix great saint's eyes, and then he closed them again. As the heavenly phoenix great saint closed his eyes, the ferocious aura receded like the tide. His demon great saint's body also faded from the starlight. The lightning disappeared, and the star of the stars appeared again. At this moment, the golden-winged great rock, the mystic armored pentaceratops, the flying feather void beast, the 5-colored sea god shell, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the netherworld demonic dragon spider all appeared in the star of the stars. However, the stars of the golden-winged great rock, the flying feather void beast, and the 5-colored sea god shell were covered in faint starlight, while the stars of the mystic armored pentaceratops, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the nether demonic dragon spider were grayish-white. However, in an instant, 3 star bridges emerged, and 3 starlights emerged from the void and fell on the 3 stars. The 3 stars also gave birth to starlight. Not only that, when the 6 stars were shining, the star of the golden-winged great peng bird flew several feet higher, and the star of the five-colored sea god's shell fell several feet lower. The positions of the 6 great sages had changed. Although Feng Wu's demonic body had already hidden itself among the stars, his consciousness was still present. After observing the changes in the positions of the stars in the Great Sage Hall, Feng Wu's demonic body also escaped from the stars. The moment he left, the stars in the Great Sage Hall began to fade, and the hall's appearance appeared. The heavenly phoenix Great Saint still transformed into his previous star demon Great Saint and descended. When he landed half a foot higher than the golden-winged Great Peng bird, he stopped. Feng Wu opened his eyes and glanced at the 6 great sages of the demon race, whose eyes were tightly shut. With a flap of his wings, the starlight in the Great Sage Hall gradually extinguished. The Great Sage Hall became peaceful, and the pillars of stars that fell into the Great Sage Hall also disappeared. The Star of the Stars phenomenon that had shrouded the Thousand Demons' sacred realm for dozens of days and nights also disappeared. P.S. A new year has begun. I wish all your wishes come true, and all the best. Thank you all for your support of the 3rd place finisher, and express my gratitude. Chapter 44-53. Oh. As the light dimmed, the golden-winged Great Peng bird was the first to come to his senses. He looked at Feng Wu, who was half a foot taller than him. While the golden-winged Great Peng bird was shocked, his eyes were filled with admiration. However, when he saw the mystic armored Pentaceratops, who was dozens of feet shorter than him, a smile appeared on his face. The golden rock woke up, and so did the mystic armored Pentaceratops and the others. The mystic armored Pentaceratops, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the nether demonic dragon spider didn't expect to be able to rush back to the Great Sage Hall so quickly. However, when the star bridge appeared, they understood something. Therefore, the 3 great sages looked at each other without any particular surprise. Then, the 3 great sages looked at the 5-colored sea god Seashell, who was several feet behind them, and then looked at Feng Wu. Feng Wu saw that the great sages had returned to the Great Sage Hall and were looking at him. He knew that although he had concealed his identity as the Great Sage of all sages, he was still a 7-star Great Sage of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. He was still the first Great Sage of the demon race. If he didn't speak, the other 6 great sages wouldn't speak either. Therefore, Feng Wu nodded at the 6 great sages and said to the Golden Rock, "Great Sage Peng, this is my first time in the Great Sage Hall. I'm not familiar with the Great Sage Hall or the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Please introduce me." "Yes, Great Sage Feng." The Golden Rock's arrogance had mostly dissipated when he faced Feng Wu. He, the flying feather void beast, and the 5-colored sea god Seashell all knew that Feng Wu's strength wasn't inferior to his when he was a 7-star Great Sage. Now that he'd cleansed himself with the Great Sage Hall's starlight, he'd even drawn the 6 stars of the Southern Dipper into his body. Although the Golden Rock didn't know what had happened after that, seeing that Feng Wu's star position was higher than his, the Golden Rock didn't dare to underestimate him. The Golden Rock turned to the mystic armored Pentaceratops, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, and the nether demonic dragon spider, and said, "This is the first great sage of the demon race, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. Greetings, Great Sage Feng." The mystic armored Pentaceratops and the others respectfully and introduced themselves. Then, the golden-winged Great Peng continued, "Phoenix Sage, every time a new Great Saint enters the Great Sage Hall, there is an unwritten rule, and that is the ranking of the Great Sage. Of course, our star positions can already reveal each other's strength. However, there are many times when star positions don't necessarily represent saint positions. Thus, great saints with similar star positions can all fight to determine the final saint position." I understand." Feng Wu smiled and said, "Don't look at how Beisheng has fallen to the bottom right now. His true strength might not be inferior to spider saints, right?" Without waiting for the golden-winged great rock to speak, the mystic armored Pentaceratops hurriedly said, "The Phoenix Sage is right. This is definitely the case now. However, the star position also represents the potential and speed of cultivation. In the future, Base Sage may not be able to compare to Spider Sage. Feng Wu pondered for a moment, then nodded and said, since this is the custom of the Great Sage Hall, this saint will not overstep it. Great sages, if you have any objections, we can do our best to settle them. When the mystic armored Pentaceratops heard this, its eyes narrowed. However, it did not speak. Instead, it looked at the golden rock. The golden rock laughed and said, Phoenix Saint, you're not joking with this saint, are you? This saint has already fought Phoenix Saint once before, and this saint admits that he is no match for him. If we fight again now, wouldn't this saint be looking for trouble? Of course, Dragon Saint has always been unconvinced of this saint's position as the top expert of the demon race. He has challenged this saint many times. Now that Phoenix Saint has taken the lead, perhaps he will be interested. As it said this, the golden rock turned to look meaningfully at the mystic armored Pentaceratops and asked, don't you think so, Dragon Saint? That's right, that's right. Before the mystic armored Pentaceratops could speak, the flying feather void beast in the distance shouted, dragons and phoenixes are the strongest demon race in ancient times. Phoenix Saint has never appeared in our thousand demons sacred realm. Now that Phoenix Saint has come to our great sage hall, it is indeed time for us to broaden our horizons and see who is the strongest. The mystic armored Pentaceratops had originally wanted to see just how powerful this newly ascended 7 stars great saint was. However, after seeing the stars rise above the sun, and seeing even the golden-winged great pen concede defeat, and finally the flying feather void beast egging him on, how could he not know what to do? The mystic armored Pentaceratops smiled and said, although this saint has just met Phoenix Saint, before this saint, Sparrow Saint, and Spider Saint returned to the Great Sage Hall, the Phoenix Saint Starlight Marrow cleansing attracted the power of 10,000 stars to our 1,000 demons sacred realm. We have benefited greatly from it. We have yet to thank Phoenix Saint, so how can we fight Phoenix Saint? With that, the mystic armored Pentaceratops bowed grandly and said, thank you for your help, Phoenix Saint. The red flame vermilion bird and the nether dragon spider also bowed to express their gratitude. Phoenix Saint smiled and bowed back. The flying feather void beast and the 5-colored sea god seashell were a little depressed. After the 3 great saints bowed, the golden rock spoke again. Since no great saint wants to challenge Phoenix Saint, then Phoenix Saint's title as the top great saint of the demon race is set. This saint is the 2nd great saint of the demon race. Is there anyone who wants to challenge this saint? As the golden rock spoke, his gaze fell on the mystic armored Pentaceratops. The mystic armored Pentaceratops' mouth was bitter. He knew very well that the golden rock's strength was on par with his. The golden rock's bloodline was a little stronger than his, but now the golden rock's star position was dozens of feet higher than his. This meant that he had broken through the bottleneck, and the star marks on his demonic body had solidified. The golden rock's strength completely overshadowed his. If he challenged the golden rock for no reason, he would only be humiliating himself. There was no other outcome. Therefore, the mystic armored Pentaceratops smiled and said, Phoenix Saint is high and mighty. Which saint dares to make a fool of themselves again? Yes. The golden rock nodded and looked at the 5-colored sea god seashell. He said, Sea god seashell, your star position is the lowest now. Today, you will be the last saint. With your current strength, you may not necessarily be the 7th great saint of the demon race. If you want, you can challenge Spider Saint. Hearing the golden rock's words, the 5-colored sea god seashell didn't react. The nether demonic dragon spider's pupils constricted. The mystic armored Pentaceratops had already made it clear that the 5-colored sea god seashell's strength was definitely higher than his. If he fought the 5-colored sea god seashell, he would definitely be the last of the 7 great saints. However, a moment later, the 5-colored sea god seashell smiled and said, I have already seen the power of Phoenix Saint in my previous battle with her. At the same time, I have also glimpsed the peak combat strength of the demon race. Since I want to challenge you, I will challenge the 1st great saint of the demon race. As for today's battle, it doesn't matter if we don't fight. I will temporarily occupy the position of the seventh great saint of the demon race. So what? Good. The golden rock clapped and smiled. There is a saying in the human race that every dog has its day. 30 years is too short for the demon race. Why don't we make a promise of 3,000 years? After 3,000 years, we will meet again to fight. Ha! The pentagram dragon laughed. After 3,000 years, Rock Saint and Phoenix Saint will have broken through the starry sky. Even if we want to fight, we won't be able to find the two great saints. Ha ha ha. The flying feather void beast and the others laughed. Seeing that the great sage hall had never been so friendly before, Feng Wu's heart moved. He said, when a new great saint enters the great sage hall, there is usually a lot of excitement. Today, when I enter, it seems a little lonely. How about this? We are all the most powerful demon race in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, and we are all great saints of the great sage hall. Although we can't be considered brothers, for the sake of the future prosperity of the demon race in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, why don't we become sworn brothers? 7 saints become sworn brothers? Not only was the golden-winged Great Peng stunned by Feng Wu's words, but even the other saints were stunned. After all, the demon race was not like the human race. They had always respected individual combat strength. Even if they were on good terms with each other, they were mostly demons of their own race. How could they become sworn brothers with other demon races? Even if the black-armored Pentaceratops and the nether demonic dragon spider were on good terms, they had never thought of becoming sworn brothers. Even though the various saints appeared to be harmonious on the surface, who knew how many conflicts there were in private? The heirs of the various holy lands even fought each other to the death. The golden rock hesitated for a moment and asked, Phoenix Sage, what do you mean? Feng Wu smiled. Rock Sage, I'm sure you've been to the hidden immortal continent and the pure land of ultimate bliss to train. If there is a conflict between the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect, who do you think will win? The golden rock did not hesitate and said, if I'm not wrong, it should be the Buddhist sect. Why? Feng Wu asked. Although the Buddhist sect is divided into many factions, they all belong to the Thunder Sound Temple. Under the orders of the Mahavairakana revered Buddha, the entire Buddhist sect must obey. The golden rock explained, on the other hand, although the Confucian cultivators also have immortal Emperor Go-Chen from the Immortal Palace, the 4 great clans may not obey the orders of the Immortal Palace. The other 100 classics will definitely obey the orders of the Immortal Palace. In this case, the winner is obvious. That's right. Feng Wu nodded. Although the demons of the 1,000 demons sacred realm have strong physical bodies, they can't compare to the human race in terms of cooperation. The Great Sage Temple can command the entire 1,000 demons sacred realm, but are the 7 great sages of the Great Sage Temple united? The black-armored Pentaceratops was displeased and said, Phoenix Sage, you just came to the Great Sage Temple. How can you see that the Great Sage Temple's sages are not united? Dragon Sage, don't be impatient. Feng Wu said unhurriedly. What I said earlier is only one of the reasons. Secondly, the Great Sage Temple originally had 6 great sages. Although the 1,000 demons sacred realm is large, I'm afraid there is not a single demon realm in it that is outside of the sage's influence, right? When Feng Wu said this, all the sages' expressions changed slightly, and the golden rock was no exception. The sages arranged the order of sages mainly for the distribution of benefits in the 1,000 demons sacred realm. As the leader of the sages, Feng Wu should have the largest sphere of influence in the 1,000 demons sacred realm. If an ordinary demon sage became a demon sage, he would have a certain sphere of influence in the 1,000 demons sacred realm. As long as the other sages compromised and gave up some benefits, it would be enough. However, Feng Wu had no foundation in the 1,000 demons sacred realm and appeared out of nowhere. If Feng Wu occupied a sphere of influence in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, wouldn't the other great sages give up even more benefits? Chapter 44-54. The mystic armored pentaceratops and the netherworld demonic dragon spider glanced at the five-colored sea god shell, gloating. However, Feng Wu's words left all the saints dumbfounded once again. Feng Wu continued, I'm now the #1 great saint in the Great Sage Temple, and I should have the largest sphere of influence in the Thousand Demons sacred realm. However, my current situation is similar to Sage Peng's, and I might break through the starry sky soon. I don't want to destroy the balance of power in the Thousand Demons sacred realm, nor do I want to take the power that originally belonged to you from your hands. Therefore, I hope to become sworn brothers with all the saints and live peacefully in the future. Sage Phoenix's words make me ashamed. The Golden Rock nodded. Sage Phoenix is willing to make such a sacrifice for the peace of the Thousand Demons sacred realm. You're truly our role model. I'm willing to become sworn brothers with Sage Phoenix, and I also suggest that every great saint should give a piece of the Demon King realm to Sage Phoenix to express our sincerity. That's right, that's how it should be. The flying feather void beast immediately shouted. I'm also willing to become sworn brothers with Sage Phoenix, and I'm also willing to give you a piece of the Demon King realm. The five-colored sea god shell was stunned, but he immediately understood. Feng Wu and Xiao Hua had a close relationship. He was forced to offer Bai Qingyu to Xiao Hua, and Xiao Hua gave it to Feng Wu. Bai Qingyu was naturally considered as his offering to Feng Wu. He didn't dare to delay, and hurriedly shouted, same for me. Seeing that all three great saints had agreed, the red flame vermilion bird also smiled and shouted, I'm also willing. Thus, the mystic armored pentaceratops and the netherworld demonic dragon spider could only agree. They didn't know that they had been tricked by the Golden Rock. Seeing that all the saints had agreed, the Golden Rock smiled and said, since that's the case, Sage Phoenix, let's become sworn brothers in the Great Sage Temple, and let all the demons in the Thousand Demons sacred realm witness a magnificent scene that has never been seen before. Agreed. Feng Wu smiled. Boom. Hearing Feng Wu's agreement, the golden-winged Great Peng flapped its wings, and the solidified star mark turned into a star that rushed into the starry sky. The mystic armored pentaceratops, the flying feather void beast, and the others also shook their star marks. Finally, the phoenix parasol also spread its wings, and the 7 stars rushed into the starry sky. Woo! The entire great sacred hall shook, and countless rays of light streaked across the Thousand Demons sacred realm. Amidst the light, the silhouette of the great holy hall was revealed. High above the great holy hall, the heaven-defying thunder phoenix, the golden-winged great rock, the arcane pentaceratops, the flying feather void beast, the scarlet flame vermilion bird, the netherworld demonic dragon spider, and the five-colored sea god shell appeared. Although the Thousand Demons sacred realm was huge, every demon could see it clearly no matter where they were. At the same time, a majestic voice rang out from the Great Holy Hall. The Great Holy Hall of the Thousand Demons sacred realm has rearranged the position of Great Saint. Today, the Great Sage Hall has 7 great sages. They are the first great sage, the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix. The second holy golden-winged great rock, the third holy mystic armored pentaceratops, the fourth holy flying feather void beast, the fifth holy vermilion flame vermilion bird, the sixth holy netherworld demonic dragon spider, and the seventh holy five-colored sea god shell. Because of the first great sage, the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix, the 7 great sages have sworn an oath in the Great Sage Hall. As his voice fell, the entire Great Sage Hall shone with starlight, once again enveloping the entire Thousand Demons sacred realm. The heaven-defying lightning phoenix and the other great sages lined up around the Great Sage Temple and bowed 9 times in a row. The light of the Great Sage Temple flickered 9 times in a row. Boom! When it was the last time, even more starlight fell from the sky, enveloping the Thousand Beasts sacred realm for an hour. After the 7 sages became sworn brothers, they all returned to their demon forms. Feng Wu looked at the sages and said, "This sage has just entered the Great Holy Hall and experienced the starlight marrow cleansing. There are many mysteries of the stars in the Great Holy Hall that I have yet to comprehend. The Great Holy Hall is the Thousand Demons sacred realm, so all matters will be discussed by the sages. This sage will go into seclusion to comprehend them. If the sages have any use for this sage, feel free to wake me up. Seeing that Feng Wu was about to go into seclusion and completely ignore the matters of the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, the golden-winged great rock and the others looked at each other and smiled knowingly. Phoenix Sage, there's no need to be like this. You are the first great saint of our demon race. We have something to report to you. This sage's heart is focused on cultivation, not worldly affairs. Please take care of me, sages. Feng Wu laughed loudly. His figure flickered, and he disappeared into the starry sky above the great holy hall. All right. The golden-winged great rock watched helplessly as Feng Wu left. He looked around and said, since the Phoenix Sage doesn't care about worldly affairs, we'll discuss among ourselves. If there's anything we need the Phoenix Sage for, it won't be too late to tell him then. The mystic armored Pentaceratops was also happy. Although he was currently the third great saint, he was actually no different from the second great saint. In particular, the golden-winged great rock had already broken through his bottleneck. If nothing unexpected happened, he would definitely be able to shatter the stars within 3,000 years. The same was true for the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix. To the mystic armored Pentaceratops, 3,000 years was merely 30 years for an ordinary human. He had plenty of patience. All right. The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded. This sage will first talk about what I saw in Qijing. This demon realm is truly strange. However, before the mystic armored Pentaceratops could finish speaking, another streak of starlight rushed out of the space in front of the golden-winged great rock. This starlight flickered rapidly, like an eye blinking. The golden-winged great rock was shocked. He said in a low voice, Dragon Sage, please wait. There seems to be an extremely urgent report. Dragon Sage, please. The mystic armored Pentaceratops naturally knew the rules and nodded. The golden-winged great rock's claw grabbed the air, and the starlight fell into it. When the starlight faded, it was a beast's skin shaped like a flying bird. The golden-winged great rock picked up the beast's skin and scanned it with his vital sense. He looked up at the other 5 saints and handed the beast's skin to the mystic armored Pentaceratops. Dragon Sage, please take a look. The mystic armored Pentaceratops was very curious about the golden-winged great rock's expression. When he took the beast's skin and scanned it with his vital sense, he was enraged and shouted, how is this possible? The humans actually sent an army of hundreds of thousands to invade our Thousand Demons' sacred realm? And they returned to the hidden immortal continent after destroying a demon realm? Damn it, they actually called themselves the invincible army of the 3 continents. Wherever they go, no matter if it's demon realm or human realm, anyone who dares to stand in their way will be killed. They really don't want to live anymore. Damn it. The nether demonic dragon spider saw this and shouted, Dragon Sage, when did this human army invade our Thousand Demons' sacred realm? How come we didn't know? Dragon Sage, this saint wants to personally lead a demon realm army to stop them. The red flame vermilion bird was also furious. Only we demon realm can say such arrogant words. A mere human army dares to call themselves an invincible army? Dragon Sage, did it only say to destroy a demon realm? The flying feather void beast's eyes flashed and asked softly. That's right. The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded. Not only did we massacre a demon realm, but we also killed the 14 demon kings and great demons blocking our way. Then, what about the demon realms where the 14 demon kings and great demons are? The flying feather void beast asked again. The mystic armored Pentaceratops was stunned when he saw that the flying feather void beast wasn't surprised and instead asked about the demon realms where the great demons were. He looked at the flying feather void beast, then at the golden-winged great rock, and asked curiously, what does their demon realms have to do with them? Oh, looks like they weren't trampled or massacred. The flying feather void beast understood and lowered his head, no longer speaking. Sage and I, what do you mean by that? The golden-winged great rock's heart thumped as if he had thought of something. He turned his eyes to the five-colored sea god's shell and asked, Sage and I, how did the banquet go this time? Why did your star rank drop so much? Dragon Sage. The five-colored sea god's shell didn't want to talk to him. Hurry up and give Sparrow Sage an army of the demon clan. These humans are too arrogant. We have to teach them a lesson. Okay, Sparrow Sage. The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded and looked at the red flame vermilion bird. Why don't you? Hee, don't worry. The vermilion bird chuckled. These humans were able to sneak into the territory of our demon race without anyone noticing. This vermilion bird is a little suspicious. In my opinion, we should first investigate how they managed to escape our detection. Okay. Seeing that the sages were starting to understand, the golden-winged great rock said, We just became sworn brothers in the great sage hall. Are you trying to shirk your responsibility now? This matter has something to do with Phoenix Sage. With that, the golden-winged great rock gave a simple explanation of what happened at Qing Bo's banquet. Finally, he said, Phoenix Sage seems to be on very good terms with that Xiao Hua. Phoenix Sage became sworn brothers with us before saying that he wouldn't interfere with the affairs of the Great Sage Hall, nor would he spread his forces throughout the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. I think it's because of the human army. For Phoenix Sage's sake, we can't make things too difficult for this army, right? Then. The red flame vermilion bird was shocked and said anxiously, Phoenix Sage isn't a human spy, right? Ha ha ha. The netherworld demonic dragon spider laughed and pointed at the red flame vermilion bird. Sparrow Sage, you haven't been burned silly by your red flame, have you? If Phoenix Sage is a human spy, how could he have been recognized by the Great Sage Hall? How could he have been worshipped by all the stars? Besides, Phoenix Sage didn't attack Peng Sage, Ni Sage, or Bei Sage. He even hoped that we could work together to build the glory of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. If he's a spy, I don't think he would say that, right? This sage thinks so too. The golden-winged great rock nodded. It's already extremely rare for a human spy to become a great demon of our Yao clan. How could a spy become a 7-star great saint? Besides, with Phoenix Sage's current status, why would he care about being a human spy? This sage understands. The red flame vermilion bird nodded. However, as he nodded, a smile appeared on his face. He understood that there was no need to take anything said in the Great Sage Hall seriously. Chapter 44-55. Are you still going to stop the Fortune Gates army? The great golden-winged rock asked with a faint smile. I'm not crazy. The red flame vermilion bird laughed. Why would I make you unhappy for no reason? Besides, the Taoist and Confucian cultivators on the hidden immortal continent are mortal enemies. Aren't the Fortune Gates disciples going to turn the hidden immortal continent upside down? Won't the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm be able to take advantage of that? If that's the case. The great golden-winged rock ordered, Dragon Sage, pass down the Great Sage Hall's order. Don't stop the Taoists' army. Let them go back and find trouble with the Confucian cultivators. We'll continue to discuss the matter of Qijing. Yes, I understand. The mystic armored Pentaceratops nodded in agreement. Xiao Hua accompanied Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu as they flew into the sky. Starlight once again appeared in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. The Great Sage Hall's silhouette appeared majestic in the sky. Su Ji and Fairy Xingyu stopped and looked at the grand occasion that seemed to be right in front of them. How is that possible? Fairy Xingyu turned pale with fright. Heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix? The 7 stars great sage from before? Why don't I have any records of him? Moreover, once the 7-star great saint enters the Great Sage Hall, he will immediately become the strongest expert of the demon race. The power structure of the entire Thousand Demons Sacred Realm will change greatly. This is something that has never happened before in the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm. Not only that. Suji's expression changed. Although the 6 great sages of the Great Sage Hall were powerful, they were not united. They fought for their own interests and rarely extended their hands out of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Now that the 7 great sages of the Great Sage Hall have become sworn brothers, won't they be expanding the 1,000 demons' sacred realm? Although the human race has a lot of people, our true strength is still incomparable to the demon race. The grudge between the Confucian cultivators and the Buddhist sect has not been resolved. If the demon race rises again, the 3 continents will not be peaceful in the future. Suji. After Suji finished speaking, Fairy Xingyu said, "You might not have been in the 1,000 demons' sacred realm before, but the 7 stars great sage who entered the Great Sage Hall was more powerful than this." It was said that the 1,000 demons' sacred realm was filled with stars that illuminated the 1,000 demons' sacred realm for 81 days and nights. Although the stars had already passed by the time I arrived, the power of the stars and moon in the 1,000 demons' sacred realm is extremely powerful, far surpassing what I've seen. What? Far beyond what you can see? Xingyue, you mean? Suji almost didn't dare to believe his ears, and he said in shock, "You've never seen it in the celestial realm?" Not bad. Fairy Xingyu nodded affirmatively. This reminds me of some of the secrets of the Demon League that the Palace of Justice has. Hearing that this was a secret of the Palace of Justice, Suji frowned and only responded in a low voice, not asking any more questions. Fairy Xingyu also knew that these secrets could not be divulged. She only explained, "The Star of the Stars, the Saint of all Saints." I suspect that this 7 stars great saint is not only the 7 stars great saint, but also the so-called saint of all saints in the Demon League. Kill. Xiao Hua's heart stirred, and he said, "Although I'm somewhat familiar with this heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix, and previously Bai Qingyu also obtained some of his main force, I didn't expect him to have such great achievements. If the 2 seniors have any misgivings, please allow me to go and kill him." No. Suji shook his head and said, "Even if the first great saint of the demon clan is the saint of all saints, it has nothing to do with us. We won't interfere in the affairs of the 3 continents. Of course, Xiao Hua, if you think that this great saint will hinder the prosperity of the human clan and cause endless killing, you can go ahead and kill him." Fairy Xingyu looked at Xiao Hua thoughtfully, as if pondering whether what Xiao Hua said was true. Then, she shook her head and said, "The Star of the Stars is a demon clan expert who possesses the power of the stars. Not only is his strength outstanding, but his luck is also on par with the stars. With the ability of the human clan, I'm afraid we can't get rid of him. Xiao Hua, since you're familiar with him, you'd better be careful." Xiao Hua heaved a sigh of relief and nodded. "I understand. I'll try my best to befriend him. If he doesn't offend me, I won't touch him either. Let's go. This has nothing to do with us." Suji waved his hand and said, "The ones with a headache should be Immortal Emperor Gochen and Vairocana revered Buddha." Suji was right. At this time, in the Thunder Temple, the Buddhas were silent. Whether it was bodhisattvas, arhats, or heavenly kings, they all put their palms together and looked at the Buddhist cloud in front of the Thunder Temple. At this time, the Buddhist cloud was a little dim. The endless heavenly flowers and Sanskrit chanting inside had long been blocked by the dazzling starlight. The Buddhist cloud was like a mirror, revealing the strange starlight of the 1,000 demons' sacred realm. Of course, the outline of the Great Sage Hall, which should have been the clearest, could not be seen at all. The heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix and the other 7 Saint Star demon bodies could not be revealed. The only thing the Buddhas could see was the endless starlight. The dazzling starlight only lasted for a moment. Then, a breeze blew, and the Buddhist radiance shone brightly, completely covering the starlight. The Vairocana revered Buddha's voice rang in the Buddha's ears, "Amitabha. The radiance of the stars and the moon is the radiance of heaven and earth. Only my Buddhist radiance is the radiance of humanity. The radiance of the stars and the moon originates from nature, while the Buddhist radiance comes from one's own body. When the radiance of the stars and the moon enters one's body, no matter how strong one's strength is, it's only relying on external forces. The Buddhist radiance is one's foundation, one's own self. My Buddha. The Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva put his palms together and said, Buddhism is formed by faith, and light is born from thoughts. Heaven and earth may change, but the Buddhist radiance is inexhaustible because of faith. Namo Amitabha. Namo Amitabha. The Buddhas lowered their brows and chanted. For a moment, the sky was filled with peanuts. Strands of faith power were born out of thin air and surged into the radiance behind the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva's head. After a while, the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha said, Namo Amitabha. A few days ago, the 1,000 demons' sacred realm's 7 stars of the Big Dipper descended. According to the demon race's cultivation, a great sage descending. Previously, the great sage hall already had 6 great sages. With this one, there should be 7 great sages. Namo Amitabha. The revered one is right. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva put his palms together and replied, this 7th great sage is different from the previous 6 great sages. He caused the 7 stars of the Big Dipper to descend. According to the demon race's words, he's a 7 stars great sage. His strength should be 7 times that of an ordinary great sage. Speaking up to this point, the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva frowned and said, however, for the stars to shine today, and the entire 1,000 demons' sacred realm to be covered in starlight, it's really strange. Could it be that the 7th great sage had entered the great sage hall and triggered the demon race's secret impartation? The starlight is 100 times more abundant than usual, and it also covers the 1,000 demons' sacred realm for 81 days and 81 nights. The overall strength of the demon race in the 1,000 demons' sacred realm has increased. In the distance, the dragon-slaying Arhat took a step forward and put his palms together. Revered one, the Buddha aura has been appearing frequently in our Pure Land world recently. Not only has the Namo Wisdom Manjushri Bodhisattva and the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva returned to their positions, even the long-lost Namo Maitreya Buddha has descended in the Thunder Temple. It can be said that the Buddha aura is boundless and the Buddha aura is shining everywhere. If nothing unexpected happens, our Pure Land world's Buddhist sect has already taken the lead among the Buddhist, Confucian, and demon sects of the 3 continents. As long as we complete the sutra seeking extreme bliss, the hidden immortal continent will also be filled with Buddhist lotuses. When the hidden immortal continent is at its peak, the 1,000 demons' sacred realm will no longer be a concern. However, the 1,000 demons' sacred realm has a strange phenomenon today. It's actually a myriad of stars shining in the sun. I'm afraid that the day of the Buddha aura's descent into the 1,000 demons' sacred realm will be delayed. In this disciple's opinion, the demon race must have sensed a crisis and used the secret technique of the Great Sage Temple to forcibly increase the overall strength of the demon race. Namo Amitabha. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva shook his head. Dragon-slaying sage, what you said seems to make sense, but I think that's not the case. Oh. Go ahead, Bodhisattva. The dragon-slaying Arhat raised his long eyebrows and asked. First of all, our Buddhist sect has no direct conflict with the demon race. Although our Buddha sect saves all living beings, it doesn't exclude the demon race. However, the demon race has always been stubborn and ignorant. They are far less intelligent than us humans. The glory of our Buddha aura has never covered the hidden immortal continent, so why should we be so ambitious and try to illuminate the 1,000 demons' sacred realm? The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva explained. Secondly, the astronomical phenomenon of myriad stars shining in the sun is far from what an ordinary great sage of the demon race can do. This must be related to the 7th great sage, not some secret technique of the demon race. The dragon-slaying Arhat opened his mouth and wanted to refute, but he swallowed his words. He bowed and said, Namo Amitabha, this disciple thanks the Bodhisattva for his teachings. Senior brother Samantabhadra. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled again. The demon realm is the demon realm. My Buddha is in my heart. Why should I care if it's myriad stars shining in the sun? Yes, junior brother Manjushri is right. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva nodded. This seat is concerned. Vaishravana. At this moment, Mahavarakana Buddha spoke. Did you hear anything? Vaishravana hurriedly said, Revered one, this disciple didn't hear it clearly, but vaguely. It should be the ranking of the 7 great sages of the demon race's great sage temple. The current first great sage is no longer the golden-winged roc, but the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. The 5-colored seashell that used to be ranked 4th also fell to the bottom. What puzzles this disciple the most is that the 6 great sages of the demon race who have always been fighting each other to the death have become sworn brothers with the heaven-defying thunder phoenix. Oh. How can this be? The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva and the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva were stunned. Manjushri. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva didn't seem to want to say more about this matter. Instead, he asked, Where is the sutra seeking bliss now? Revered one. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva hurriedly replied. It's already at the northern part of the Pure Land world, the peak of the South Sea. It won't take long before it crosses the sea and leaves the Pure Land world. Namo Amitba. We're halfway through the sutra seeking bliss. Don't make any changes. Be careful. This disciple understands. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva smiled bitterly. Ever since Chuanzang took in a demon race named Jiaqi, the path of seeking the sutra seeking bliss has become smooth. Even if there are any changes, this powerful demon race will stifle them. As he spoke, the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva looked up at the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva nodded at the Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva with a smile. Vaishravana Heavenly King, Vaishravana Heavenly King. The Namo Mahatma Samantabhadra Bodhisattva said, The situation in the 3 continents is very complicated. The 1,000 demon sacred realm and the 7 sages have become sworn brothers. The sutra seeking bliss is between the Pure Land world and the hidden immortal continent. The star moon palace that the humans and demons are searching for seems to be appearing as well. Keep an eye on the 3 continents. If there are any changes, report it immediately. Chapter 44-56. Yes, disciple understands. Heavenly King Vaishravana and Heavenly King Verpka placed their palms together and received the Buddhist edict. Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, stay behind. The rest of you, leave. Said the Dipankara archaic Buddha. Namo Amitba, Namo Amitba. As the Buddhas chanted, they gradually faded into the void, leaving only the Buddhist radiances and lotus shadows in the thunderclap temple. After the Buddhist radiances faded, the Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, bowed and asked, World Exalted One, may I know why you asked this disciple to stay behind? Let me ask you, that abstaining from eating. Where did it come from? The Dipankara archaic Buddha opened his eyes and asked calmly, When Xuanzang and his 3 disciples ascended the great snowy mountain, this disciple didn't exist. However, after descending from the great snowy mountain, this demon appeared. At that time, only you and the Namo Maitreya Buddha were on the great snowy mountain. I'm afraid you're the only one who knows the origin of abstaining from eating. The Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, smiled bitterly and said, World Exalted One, this disciple does know about this. However, this matter involves the Namo Maitreya Buddha, World Exalted One. May I ask the Namo Maitreya Buddha, World Exalted One? At this point, the Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, pondered for a while and said, However, from what this disciple knows, this abstaining from eating respects Xuanzang from the bottom of his heart. He's definitely one of the most devout Buddhas in our Buddhism. Similarly, he wouldn't obstruct the sutra praying for nirvana in any way. Sai, Samantabhadra, the sutra praying for nirvana has reached this stage. It really makes one speechless. The Dipankara archaic Buddha sighed and said, if an 8th grade essence force demon is to protect Chuanzang, how could there be any difficulties along the way? This sutra praying for nirvana, wouldn't it become a joke? The Namo Mahasabha, Samantabhadra Bodhisattva, naturally knew what the Dipankara archaic Buddha meant. However, he was helpless and could only bow. Exalted One, this disciple doesn't have any better ideas. Samantabhadra, you may leave. Discuss with Manjushri and see what we can do about this matter. Mahavarakana revered Buddha's eyes did not open as he ordered lightly. Yes, revered one of the world, I understand. Samantabhadra Bodhisattva bowed. The Buddhist light gradually dimmed as he left the Lain temple. Looking at the silent thunderclap temple and the ever-changing Buddha clouds, the Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord said in a low voice, World Lord, previously, the World Lord mentioned that the Namo Maitreya Buddha World Lord is afraid of harming my thunderclap temple. Is this abstinence from eating? Could it be that he wants to get his hands on the fruit of sutra seeking nirvana? Namo Amitba. The Mahavarakana Buddha opened his eyes. His eyes were as bright as torches, with the sun, moon, and stars being extinguished one after another. He then said to the Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha, Senior apprentice brother, I'm unable to see through this matter, nor am I able to explain it. Does Senior Martial brother feel anything? No. The Namo Dipankara archaic Buddha shook his head as well, I didn't feel anything either. If the Maitreya Buddha comes out of seclusion, I can ask him. The Mahavarakana Buddha World Lord said, however, from Samantabhadra's words, this abstinence is a disciple of my Buddha. He wants to protect Chuanzang out of pure Buddha's heart. It shouldn't affect the sutra seeking nirvana. It shouldn't affect the thunderclap temple either. Only, Senior Martial brother, you have to arrange more tribulations to prevent the immortal palace from having any evidence against you. Yes, I understand. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord nodded, I'll ask Samantabhadra and Manjushri to pay more attention to this matter. However, Chuanzang and his disciples will soon cross the South Sea and East Sea and return to the buried immortal continent. The immortal palace will be the ones having a headache. Amitba, the immortal palace isn't just having a headache over the sutra seeking nirvana. The Mahavarakana Buddha World Lord smiled and said, they're having a headache over the 1,000 demons' sacred territory. Senior Martial brother, do you still remember the 4 great continents that we descended upon during the Golden Body first cycle? The Dipankara archaic Buddha pondered for a while and asked, are you talking about the demon ancestor of the desolate era upper worlds? Amitba, that's right. The Mahavarakana Buddha World Lord nodded, star of myriad stars. I remember it very clearly. The demon of myriad demons. The Dipankara archaic Buddha shook his head and sighed, sigh, Namo Amitba. The demon race is too daring. How long has it been, and how many worlds have we been apart? How did another demon of myriad demons appear in the 1,000 demons sacred realm? Wherever the demon of myriad demons goes, a sea of blood will be born, and vengeful souls will never cease to exist. Senior Martial brother, our pure lands will have to increase our vigilance from today onwards. We might have to face the demon of myriad demons after the sutra praying in nirvana. The Mahavarakana Buddha World Lord reminded. The Dipankara archaic Buddha World Lord nodded and said, you're right, World Lord. I'll immediately send out a Buddhist decree to the heavenly kings and bandis to increase their vigilance. Amitba. My Buddha is merciful. Knowing that the 3 continents would face a tribulation, he arranged for the 2 bodhisattvas and the Maitreya Buddha World Lord to descend upon our 3 continents. With our Buddhism sect's current strength, even if the demon race has the 7 great sages, we won't be at a disadvantage. The Mahavarakana Buddha World Lord clasped his palms together and said with an indescribable benevolence, on the other hand, the immortal palace should be the strongest. Even if we don't consider the 100 schools of thought's unwillingness to accept the military school, their strength seems to have fallen into a disadvantage. The immortal palace had already fallen into a disadvantage before the sutra praying in nirvana. How could they possibly turn the tables around now? The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord calmly replied. However, as soon as he finished speaking, a strange glint flashed across his eyes, which were as calm as a dry well, and he said, also, Supreme of the world, I'm not sure if you noticed, but before the star of 10,000 stars appeared, there seemed to be a movement in the 1,000 demons' sacred realm that surpassed the laws of the 3 continents. Amitabha. The Mahavairakana Buddha world lord's face was also filled with surprise. He nodded and said, Senior Marshal Brother is right. Let alone this disturbance, there have been many disturbances that transcended the laws of the 3 continents recently. It's just that this disturbance came from the past. It swept past the present and rushed straight into the future. If the Maitreya Buddha world lord was here, he might be able to see something. However, Senior Marshal Brother and I might not be able to see through it. World Lord. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord hesitated for a moment before saying, Do you think it's related to the 2 from the moon-embracing palace? Or, is it related to that person in the 1,000 demons sacred realm? If I'm not mistaken, it should be. The Mahavairakana Buddha world lord nodded and said, Only the disturbance caused by those 2 could trigger the laws of the heavens and earth, allowing them to avoid our Buddhism mystical arts. Moreover, it said that the Star Moon Palace will appear in the 1,000 demons sacred realm's Crimson Earth River. It should be caused by those 2, right? However, those 2 have always kept a low profile and never caused any trouble in the 3 continents. Unless something special happened, they wouldn't use their mystical arts. As for that person in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, I feel that she doesn't have such a high cultivation. Of course, we can't rule out the possibility that she's arrogant and domineering, offending those 2. Anyway, they're all in the 1,000 demons sacred realm. We don't have to be too concerned. Right now, the most important thing for our Buddhism sect is to complete the sutra praying in extreme bliss. Amitabha. My Buddha is merciful. I hope that those 2 will always be merciful. The Dipankara archaic Buddha world lord's chanting spread far and wide within the spacious Thunder Sound Temple and didn't stop for a long time. If the Thunder Sound Temple's past Buddha Lord and present Buddha Lord could sense the movement of the stars in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, how could the Immortal Palace's Immortal Emperor Gochen not know? Within the Immortal Palace's Cloud Ascension Hall, the Immortal Emperor's mountain-like figure remained tall and straight on the huge golden throne. Hundreds of dragon-shaped destinies carried thousands of inscriptions around the golden throne. Although they seemed to be moving freely, they were also circulating in a mysterious trajectory. In front of the Immortal Emperor's eyes, a huge starry sky had just been concealed. The clouds surrounding the starry sky still had dazzling starlight flickering. It seemed like the myriad of stars in the 1,000 demons sacred realm had also covered the golden throne's radiance. Everyone. As the Immortal Emperor opened his mouth, the destinies around him immediately converged into his indomitable figure. However, his voice was still as deafening as thunder. It was obvious that the Immortal Emperor's current emotions were stirred up. You all have seen it. You all have also heard the clairaudience report. Do you all have anything to say? As he spoke, 2 faint golden lights flashed from the heaven and earth crown on the Immortal Emperor's head. It was obvious that the Immortal Emperor was looking around. Currently, within the Cloud Ascension Hall, other than Taibai Jinxing and the other civil officials, Heavenly King Qin Yu, Heavenly King Fu Yu, and the other generals, there was also the Nangong family's young master, Nangong Jingyin. Hearing the Immortal Emperor's words, the officials glanced at each other. Just as they were about to speak, Nangong Jingyin uncharacteristically took half a step forward and bowed. Your Majesty, this humble subject has something to say. The Immortal Emperor was clearly dazed. Taibai Jinxing and the others also frowned. After all, Nangong Jingyin wasn't considered an official of the Cloud Ascension Hall. Even if he wanted to speak, he had to wait for Taibai Jinxing and Heavenly King Qin Yu to finish. Speak. The Immortal Emperor spoke. Your Majesty. Nangong Jingyin's square face revealed a trace of understanding. He said, this humble subject has read our Nangong family's books since young. Not only did I study the teachings of the human race, but I also dabbled in the inheritance of the beast race. Whether it was the 13 great saints of the beast race at their peak or the 2 great saints of the beast race at their weakest, this humble subject has some understanding of them. However, this humble subject has never heard of a 7-star great saint appearing in the beast race today. This humble subject remembers that the beast race once had a 2-star great saint who attracted the 7-kill star and knowledge star of the Southern Dipper into his body. This great saint of the beast race was called the heaven-flipping great saint and boasted that he could flip the heavens. That day, the beast race of the 1,000 beasts sacred realm rebelled. Our immortal palace sent Fu Hai Heavenly King, Ping Yao Heavenly King, and Ji Peng Heavenly King to suppress them. Our immortal soldiers and generals were unstoppable and fought all the way to the great sage palace of the 1,000 beasts sacred realm. The only 2 great sages of the great sage palace went to stop the 3 heavenly kings. The immortal palace lord Zi Wei immortal emperor and the Tai Ching palace lord appeared to face the enemy. The 4 supreme cultivators of our 3 continents fought for 3 days, and that heaven-flipping great saint's power actually surpassed Zi Wei immortal emperor. He used the power of 2 stars to injure Zi Wei immortal emperor and then joined forces with another great saint to destroy the Tai Ching palace lord's main body. Since that battle, our human race knew that the 2-star great saint of the beast race was more than a level stronger than normal great saints. Of course, this battle happened a long time ago, and this humble subject doesn't know if anyone still remembers it. Today, this new great saint of the beast race actually attracted the 7 stars of the Big Dipper. He's probably even stronger than heaven-flipping great saint. Chapter 44-57. You're right. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen praised, "This is a secret of my immortal palace. Even the officials of the immortal palace don't know about it. It's rare for your Nangong family to have such a clear record. Your Majesty." Nangong Jingyin's expression changed slightly, and she hastily bowed. "I know that this is a secret, but I don't dare to not report it. The rise of the demon race is a nightmare for our human race. I would rather report it than be punished by your Majesty." "Emicham, I'm not that muddle-headed." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen sneered, "Speak your mind." "Yes, your Majesty." Nangong Jingyin was neither arrogant nor rash as she continued, "However, I still have a huge doubt. I wonder if your Majesty can clear it up for me." "Speak." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen ordered. "I've just said that I'm willing to make any sacrifice for the prosperity of our human race. Thus, I usually pay attention to the movements of the 1,000 demons sacred realm and the extreme world. I have some understanding of the 6 great sages of the 1,000 demons sacred realm." Nangong Jingyin said respectfully, "However, I've never heard of this heaven-defying lightning phoenix's name. I also didn't know that the phoenix race, which has long been declining in the 1,000 demons sacred realm, actually had such a great sage. Can your Majesty please tell me which demon realm this heaven-defying lightning phoenix came from?" Needless to say, Nangong Jingyin was trying to flatter Immortal Emperor Go-Chen. Unexpectedly, Immortal Emperor Go-Chen faintly replied, "What you know, I also know. What you don't know, I also don't know. I also want to ask the 4 great clans. Who can tell me where this 7-star heaven-defying lightning phoenix that suddenly appeared, came from?" Nangong Jingyin took in a cold breath and hastily bowed, "I know my mistake. Please punish me, your Majesty." "What mistake did you make? If you're guilty, then wouldn't I be even more guilty?" Immortal Emperor Go-Chen was clearly a bit angry as he said coldly. Just like what Vairocana revered said, the appearance of the heaven-defying lightning phoenix was a huge blow to the Confucian cultivators of the hidden immortal continent. I. Nangong Jingyin's forehead were already covered in cold sweat. The feeling of flattering the Emperor Go-Chen was truly uncomfortable. Young Master Nangong. Taibai Jinxing, who was beside him, said, "When we entered the hall, this old man heard you say that you had come to the Hall of Fragrance to meet the East Sea Empress. It's getting late now. Aren't you going to greet her?" Nangong Jingyin let out a sigh of relief and hurriedly said, Your Majesty, this lowly subject doesn't know much about the court and was only speaking off the cuff. Please forgive this lowly subject's crime on account that this lowly subject is wholeheartedly thinking for the human race. I came to the Lingyun Palace to report to His Majesty and pay my respects to the Celestial Empress in the Hall of Fragrance. Go. Immortal Emperor Go Chen didn't say much and ordered. Thank you, Your Majesty. Nangong Jingyin got up and turned to look at Tai Bai Jinxing. Her eyes were filled with gratitude as she left in a hurry. Before Nangong Jingyin could leave, Fuyue Heavenly King sneered. A brat dares to show off in front of me? Geezer Tai Bai, you are making things up. I want to see how this brat is going to deal with this. Tai Bai Jinxing innocently waved his horsetail whisk and replied, I don't dare to make things up in front of His Majesty. He came to pay respects to the Celestial Empress. Damn it, why is he paying respects to the Celestial Empress for no reason? Fuyue Heavenly King snorted. Truly a weasel paying respects to the chicken. Qin Yu quickly interrupted Fuyue Heavenly King and said to Immortal Emperor Go Chen. This lowly subject has 3 questions. Your Majesty, please tell Heaven's Secret Hall to quickly investigate. Speak. Although Immortal Emperor Go Chen's face couldn't be seen clearly, this one word contained a myriad of thunderbolts. He was probably pissed off by Fuyue Heavenly King. Firstly, the origin of this heaven-defying lightning phoenix. Secondly, what exactly was that constellation transit just now? Thirdly, why did the Great Sage Hall's 5-colored sea god shell suddenly drop from the 4th Great Sage to the 7th Great Sage? Qin Yu explained in detail. As long as Heaven's Secret Hall can investigate these 3 matters, the situation in the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm will be clear. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded and said, Summon Heaven's Secret Hall's Xia Xian. This lowly subject is here. A voice came from outside the Overcloud Palace. Then, the Heavenly Secret Hall's Palace Master Xia Xian appeared in front of everyone. Did you hear what Heavenly King Qin Yu said? Immortal Emperor Go Chen went straight to the point. Xia Xian bowed and said, This lowly subject knows. This lowly subject has already sent elite disciples to the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. They will return in a few days. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was very satisfied and asked, What is the matter? Why are you waiting outside the palace? Your Majesty, this lowly subject has an important matter to report. Xia Xian said in a low voice. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked around and said, Can everyone hear me? Xia Xian thought for a bit and nodded. Yes. Okay, speak. Immortal Emperor Go Chen ordered. Your Majesty, this lowly subject has 3 important matters to report. First, there are several 100,000 high-level cultivators from the Tao Gate inside the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm that are drawing upon the worldly origin energy. Before Xia Xian could finish, Heavenly King Qin Yu interrupted him in shock and shouted, How is this possible? Palace Master Xia, how many 100,000 are you talking about? Your so-called high-level cultivator, what kind of cultivator is he? Heavenly King Qin Yu. Although Xia Xian was interrupted, he was not angry at all and continued to answer slowly, it might be between 150,000 and 250,000. As for their realm, it should be above the nascent soul realm or even below the body integration realm. This is the funniest thing in the world. Heavenly King Qin Yu laughed and waved his hand. There aren't that many Tao Gate cultivators in the entire hidden immortal continent. This is impossible. Unfortunately, Xia Xian ignored Heavenly King Qin Yu and continued to report. Second, before the stars illuminated the sun, a large-scale worldly law appeared in the Thousand Demon Sacred Realm. This law far surpasses the inscription chains of my immortal palace. It can't be. Tai Bai Jinxing was even more shocked than Heavenly King Qin Yu. Far surpasses the inscription chains of my immortal palace. Then it surpasses the worldly law of the 3 continents? How is this possible? Third, at the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm's Chitty River, there was an abnormal spatial ripple. The Xingyue palace that Xingyue is looking for should have appeared there. Xie Xian still ignored Taibai Jinxing and finished the last matter. After Xie Xian finished speaking, the entire Lingyun palace was silent. Taibai Jinxing and Heavenly King Qin Yu looked at each other. They knew that Xie Xian of the Heaven's secret palace was a man of his word. He replaced Immortal Emperor Go Chen to control the 3 continents. He definitely wouldn't exaggerate things like Nangong Jingyin. What he said was definitely the truth. After a while, Immortal Emperor Go Chen said, Xie Xian. Hearing Immortal Emperor Go Chen directly call his name, Xie Xian's expression turned serious. He bowed and said, I'm here. From today onwards, you will temporarily be in charge of the Hall of Enlightenment. Increase the intensity of monitoring the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm and the Pure Land world. You must investigate the Great Sage Palace's heaven-defying Lightning Phoenix and Thunder Temple's Namo Maitreya Buddha's foundation. Immortal Emperor Go Chen ordered, if there is any movement, immediately report to me. Yes, I understand. Xie Xian nodded. I'll take my leave. Go. Immortal Emperor Go Chen ordered. Just as Xie Xian turned around, Immortal Emperor Go Chen seemed to have thought of something and suddenly asked, Oh right, where is the sutra seeking extreme bliss? Xie Xian was stunned. He could only stop and report, Your Majesty, according to what I know, Chunzong and his group have already reached the northern part of the Pure Land world. They're about to cross the Eastern Sea. Oh, that's pretty fast. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded. Of course it's pretty fast. Xie Xian smiled and said, Chunzong took in a demon around the 8th level essence force. How many Taoist cultivators in this world are his match? What's the origin of this chastity ring? You still haven't found it? Immortal Emperor Go Chen asked unhappily. Xie Xian hesitated for a bit and whispered, This matter belongs to the Hall of Enlightenment. Xie Xian stopped here and lowered his head. I understand. I'll send more people to let Your Majesty know. Who else wants to interfere with the sutra seeking extreme bliss? Why don't we just look for Jinhan and ask her? Taibai Jinxing frowned and asked in a low voice. That's right. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded. Send someone secretly to ask. Yes. Xie Xian left after saying that. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at Taibai Jinxing and said, Minister, since the sutra seeking extreme bliss is at Burial Immortal Continent, the responsibility is on us Confucian cultivators. If you have time, go take a look and make sure nothing goes wrong. Yes, I understand. Taibai Jinxing nodded without hesitation. I'll go to the Eastern Sea to deal with the heavenly protector of the Buddhist sect. Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded and looked at Heavenly King Qin Yu. Heavenly King Qin Yu, the 7 great saints of the demon race have sworn brotherhood. Regardless of whether it's just a formality, it's undeniable that the unity of the great saints of the Thousand Demons Sacred Realm is unprecedented. If nothing goes wrong, the demon race will stabilize and they'll think of making a move. Our Thousand Demons Sacred Realm will be the first to be affected. Regardless of whether the hundreds of thousands of Taoist cultivators are primordial chaos ancestors' subordinates, our immortal palace must be prepared for war. Yes, I understand. Heavenly King Qin Yu cupped his fists and said, I'll prepare the troops after the court session ends. Your Majesty. Taibai Jinxing hesitated for a moment as if he was thinking. Then, Taibai Jinxing said, since perfected cultivator Qin Yuan was mysteriously killed, the position of General of the Sun Palace has been vacant. Our immortal palace needs a general who can fight in battles. What do you have in mind, Your Majesty? Sigh, perfected cultivator Qin Yuan's disappearance is strange. I can't find him even with the supreme heavenly mirror. Immortal Emperor Go Chen sighed, I haven't thought about the position of General of the Sun Palace. Oh, since my beloved subject mentioned this, does my beloved subject have any suggestions? Chapter 44-58. Your Majesty, there's something you don't know. Taibai Jingxing bowed and said, Sun Palace's general, Sun Jian, was extremely loyal but not strong enough. First, he had an affair with a Daoist remnant, then he went missing while guarding Black Ruins Mountain. I feel that the position of Sun Palace's general must be strong enough to intimidate the Daoists and conquer the world. I've been visiting the famous mountains and rivers a while ago and met a remnant of my school of the military. I saw a void refinement and heavenly fusion general, so I've brought him to the immortal palace for your Majesty to make a decision. A void refinement and heavenly fusion martial saint? Heavenly King Fuyue couldn't help but shout, how is that possible? There's a martial saint in this world that I don't know about? Heavenly King Qin Yu's expression also turned ugly. He stared at Taibai Jingxing and said, Old man Taibai, the position of Sun Palace's general requires absolute loyalty. Where did you find a martial saint? How dare you make him the Sun Palace's general? This person is from one of my school of the military. His name is Sun Chou. Taibai Jingxing smiled and said, I can vouch for Sun Chou's loyalty. Of course, whether or not he can become the Sun Palace's general depends on your Majesty's decision. Summon. Immortal Emperor Gaochen didn't say much and only ordered. Not long after, a burly general holding a three-pointed, double-edged sword strode up to the Lingyun Palace. This general was wearing a golden chainmail, and the two thick eyebrows on his face that were exposed outside of the armor contained a murderous aura. His round eyes flashed with murderous intent. Above the armor, rays of righteous aura shuttled like sharp swords. Before the general even got close, Heavenly King Fuyue felt his body turn cold. He couldn't help but feel like he was being stared at by a ferocious beast. Three-pointed, double-edged sword? Heavenly King Qin Yu saw the weapon in the general's hand and couldn't help but exclaim, Isn't that Sun Jian's weapon? Sun Chou greets the immortal emperor. The general walked to the front of the palace and bowed. Rise. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said indifferently. He waved his hand and a ray of light as bright as the sun flew out from his hand, illuminating the entire overcloud palace. Then, another ray of light shot out and covered Sun Chou. Rumble. A series of thunderbolts came out from the light pillar. Then, the entire Lingyun Palace was engulfed in darkness except for the light pillar. Looking into the light pillar, Sun Chou's figure gradually became transparent. Then, his figure fluttered like a butterfly. Strings of illusory images were elongated, and within each of these illusory images, there were thousands of mountains, rivers, and stories of people. After half a cup of tea's time, the light gradually dimmed. Light also seeped out from the darkness of the Lingyun Hall. By the time the light pillar completely disappeared, Sun Chou's body had once again returned to its original state. Taibai Jingxing, Heavenly King Qin Yu, Heavenly King Fu Yu, and the others all had the ability to clear their eyes. Even though Sun Chou's silhouette appeared in the supreme heavenly mirror like a flash of light, and the scenes that each silhouette depicted flashed by, everything that Sun Chou had experienced in this life was still vivid in their minds. Taibai Jingxing smiled and bowed, Congratulations, Your Majesty. This is Your Majesty's grace to the world, and the people of the world love Your Majesty. The heavens have bestowed such a blessing to Your Majesty. With such a fierce general, our immortal palace will not be at a disadvantage against the Thunder Temple and the Great Sage Hall. Ha! Ha! Immortal Emperor Go Chen was clearly happy. He actually laughed twice. Then, he looked at Heavenly King Qin Yu and Heavenly King Fu Yu and asked, What do you two think? Your Majesty. Heavenly King Qin Yu bowed and said, Sun Chou has always been innocent. He is a descendant of the school of the military. Moreover, he was able to cultivate to the martial saint realm in the lower realm. The hardships he had to go through are not something an ordinary person can endure. Such a person with a strong mind is the pillar of the school of the military. I feel that if there is no problem with his loyalty, he is more than qualified to be the great general of the Sun Palace. Your Majesty. Heavenly King Fu Yu frowned and said, I want to see Sun Chou's three-pointed double-edged saber. Ha! Immortal Emperor Go-Chen laughed and said, "Not just you, even I am very curious. There are many weapons in the world, and Sun Jian is probably the most famous one to use the three-pointed double-edged saber. However, I did not expect that after Sun Jian, Sun Cho would also use the three-pointed double-edged saber as a weapon. Could it be that this three-pointed double-edged saber was left behind by Sun Jian? Your Majesty," Sun Cho said respectfully, "this weapon has been used by me since I was young. It is different from the three-pointed double-edged saber in perfected cultivator Qin Yuan's hands. Sun Cho, show me your weapon." Heavenly King Fu Yu raised his hand and said, "Sorry." Unexpectedly, Sun Cho refused. "This is the weapon of this commoner. I can't let others control it as they wish." "Damn it!" Heavenly King Fu Yu shouted, "I am the Heavenly King of the Immortal Palace. Even if you are the great general of the Sun Palace, you are still my subordinate. My words are military orders. How dare you not listen?" "So what if I don't listen?" Sun Cho sneered and said, "A real man stands on his own in the world. There are things that he should do and things that he should not do. If he can't even grasp a few principles, how can he be loyal? Then go to hell." Heavenly King Fu Yu roared angrily, and his voice shook the Lingyun Palace. The space around Sun Cho cracked inch by inch, and pillars of Aoran Chi shot toward Sun Cho like flying swords. At the same time, Heavenly King Fu Yu raised his right hand, and a curved saber that looked like a silver moon strangely appeared from his waist. Everyone felt their vision blur, and the moonlight on the curved saber flashed past space and landed behind Sun Cho's neck. The cold moonlight was hidden in the lightning. In an instant, Sun Cho's eyes narrowed into needles. He muttered, "Heavenly King of the Immortal Palace, is nothing more than this." Although his voice was low, it contained grief and anger. The moment the words came out, they also condensed into 8 balls of Aoran Chi. Boom boom boom. They all burst in front of Sun Cho's eyes. The balls of Aoran Chi first shattered the space around Sun Cho, and the thin cracks in space were like spider webs that affected the space that Heavenly King Fu Yu shattered. When the two shattered spaces collided, the space around Sun Cho collapsed. However, because Sun Cho had already broken the space close to his body in advance, the space about a foot to the left of him was stable. Even Heavenly King Fu Yu's curved saber that was like the autumn moon trembled slightly in the collapse of space, like ripples in water. Just as the ripples appeared, clang! The three-pointed, double-edged saber in Sun Cho's hand moved, piercing into the gap between the ripples. As the metal clanged, the autumn moon was like the moon in the water that was shattered. The three-pointed, double-edged saber was like a flood dragon that came out of the water, piercing into the void and stabbing towards Heavenly King Fu Yu's heart. Seeing the silver light in the void, the breastplate at his heart made peng 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 sounds, and the hundreds of inscriptions on it were already shattered. How could Heavenly King Fu Yu not know that the wind from the three-pointed, double-edged saber had already struck? A solemn expression appeared on his face as he quickly retreated. A golden hammer the size of a fist appeared in his left hand. Whoosh! The sound of wind whistling could be heard. Pooh! 2 inexplicable sounds could be heard. In front of Heavenly King Fu Yu, the light of the three-pointed, double-edged blade flashed and disappeared. Heavenly King Fu Yu's body also stiffened. He lowered his head to look at the pendant on his waist. There were already cracks on it. When Heavenly King Fu Yu raised his head, Sun Cho was already standing there with the three-pointed, double-edged saber in his hand. His face was neither arrogant nor humble, as calm as a virgin. "General Sun." Heavenly King Fu Yu smiled bitterly, "I only wanted to see if your three-pointed, double-edged saber was the same as Sun Jian's. You don't have to put me on the spot like this, do you? My apologies." Sun Cho said indifferently, "This is my first time in the Immortal Palace, so I do not know the etiquette. Please forgive me, Heavenly King." Forget it, forget it." Heavenly King Fu Yu waved his hand and said self-deprecatingly, "A great person does not hold a grudge against a lowly person." "If you say so, what else can I say?" "My dear subject." Immortal Emperor Gaochen smiled and asked, "Compared to the previous Sun Jian, who is stronger? Is this three-pointed, double-edged saber the same as Sun Jian's?" "Your Majesty." Heavenly King Fu Yu smiled bitterly, "Do I even need to say this? The previous Sun Jian's strength compared to the current Sun Cho is not even worthy of carrying his shoes. That three-pointed, double-edged saber compared to this one, is a fire rod. What nonsense are you talking about?" Heavenly King Qin Yu scolded. "Sun Jian's three-pointed, double-edged saber was forged by a great artificer of the Immortal Palace. How can it be a fire rod? I am just making an analogy." Heavenly King Fu Yu was not angry and smiled. "With this three-pointed, double-edged saber, Sun Cho is like a tiger that has grown wings. His strength has increased by 30%. No wonder this guy is unwilling to show his weapon to others." Heavenly King Qin Yu smiled and said, "Your Majesty, this Sun Cho is much stronger than the previous true monarch Qin Yuan. Moreover, his character is somewhat similar to true monarch Qin Yuan. If there is no problem in terms of loyalty, I feel that there is no problem with him becoming the Sun Palace's great general." "Yes, I think so too." Immortal Emperor Gaochen nodded and said, "However, I am still a bit worried. Sun Cho is strong, but the Sun Palace's great general needs to lead troops. I am afraid that Sun Cho does not have any experience in this area. If that is the case, then there is even less need for your Majesty to worry." Heavenly King Qin Yu replied, "With the situation in the Thousand Beasts Sacred Realm, who knows when they will start a war with our hidden immortal continent? The Sun Palace's great general will have plenty of opportunities to lead troops. There is no need to wait until then." Heavenly King Fu Yu said with a smile, "I remember that the Hall of Enlightenment sent a report saying that there are Taoism remnants running rampant in the soaring Dragon Mountain range in the lower realm. The Lunar Temple has already dispatched troops to deal with them. If the Sun Palace's great general is willing, you can go there." "What? The Lunar Temple dispatched troops to deal with the soaring Dragon Mountain range?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen was stunned. "When did this happen?" "Your Majesty." Tai Bai Jinxing said, "It happened the day before yesterday." "Why didn't I know? Why didn't they send a report?" Immortal Emperor Gaochen asked. Chapter 44-59. Tai Bai Jinxing was taken aback by Immortal Emperor Go Chen's rebuke. He smiled wryly and said, "Your Majesty, you have 1,000 things to attend to every day and control the foundation of our human race for millions of years. There are too many things that require your Majesty's attention, so there is no need to report such a trivial matter. After receiving the report from the Hall of Enlightenment, the Lunar Temple has already sent out their troops. After they send out their troops, this lowly official has already approved the reports that they sent out." "Ha!" Immortal Emperor Gochen chuckled and said, "I'm also confused by the 1,000 Demons Sacred Realm." Tai Bai Jinxing. "Yes, Your Majesty." Tai Bai Jinxing said anxiously. "Write a decree for Sun Cho to temporarily assume the position of Sun Palace's great general. Announce it to the world when he has military merits." Immortal Emperor Go Chen ordered. "I understand." Tai Bai Jinxing bowed and said. Sun Cho hurriedly bowed and said, "Thank you, Your Majesty." "Okay, General Sun, wait at the side. I still have some things to ask you about the military family's descendants after the discussion." Immortal Emperor Go Chen ordered. "I understand." Sun Cho stood up and stood beside everyone. Then, Immortal Emperor Go Chen discussed the Immortal Palace and the hidden Immortal Continent with Tai Bai Jinxing and the others. However, Sun Cho was obviously absent-minded, as if he had something important on his mind. After the discussion, everyone dispersed. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at Sun Cho, who was frowning, and raised his hand. Boom! The entire heavenly palace surged and changed again. A study-like palace appeared. At this moment, Immortal Emperor Go Chen's huge body had returned to normal. The golden brilliance faded away, revealing his original appearance. Oh! Sun Jian. Immortal Emperor Go Chen stood up from his golden chair and walked to Sun Cho. He said curiously, "You look like you have something on your mind?" Sun Cho was obviously Sun Jian, who had disguised himself. Sun Jian, who was proficient in the 9 transformations, could easily disguise himself as Sun Cho. Under Immortal Emperor Go Chen's disguise, how could the illusion realm in the Supreme Heavenly Mirror be real? "Sigh, Your Majesty." Sun Jian sighed and said, "When I returned to the Immortal Palace, the first thing I told Your Majesty was that you don't have to worry about the Taoism cultivators for now. Especially that place called the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. No matter what happens, Your Majesty must wait and see. After all, Xiaohua of the Tao sect." At this point, Sun Jian hesitated. This Xiaohua. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's brows furrowed as he asked, "Even if it's as you say, he's only a human Grand Ascension stage being. Even if he founded the Fortune Gate, how can it compare to the Immortal Palace?" "Your Majesty." Sun Tian said with a wry smile, "I've said what I can say. Your Majesty, please don't embarrass me for what I can't say. I'm loyal to Your Majesty and the Immortal Palace. Similarly, I have to make some compromises for some things without affecting Your Majesty's safety." "Yes, I understand." Immortal Emperor Go Chen nodded. A loyal person with his own principles is a true loyal person. However, the matter of the Soaring Dragon Mountain Range. I truly didn't know about it. It was my slip of the tongue, and I also made you break your promise. Sigh. Sun Jian sighed. Since they've already sent out their troops, it's no longer appropriate for me to go out and stop them. Even His Majesty could not change his orders. I can only wait for an opportunity in the future to explain to Xiaohua. I hope he can understand. If it's possible. Immortal Emperor Go Chen smiled, "You should also express my goodwill. Xiaohua was able to save you, and he is indeed a benevolent person. You didn't get to know him in vain. Your Majesty is wrong." Sun Tian corrected, "A cultivator like Xiaohua still needs Your Majesty to personally recruit him. If I could recruit him, why would I wait until now?" "Oh, right." Immortal Emperor Go Chen smiled when he heard Sun Jian describe Xiaohua as a rare person. He felt that Sun Jian was making a mountain out of a molehill, so he changed the topic and asked, "What's the progress on Sun Hao's matter?" Sun Jian and Immortal Emperor Go Chen's thoughts were completely opposite. He felt that Immortal Emperor Go Chen was too dismissive. However, he couldn't say anything more to Immortal Emperor Go Chen, so he could only reply, "Your Majesty, there are some clues. However, these clues don't seem to be much. It seems like there are traces of the gray serpent worm thread. However, when I really investigated it, there were actually too many clues. I simply couldn't find the source. There are only a few literary stars in the Immortal Palace." Immortal Emperor Go Chen's face became gloomy. "Why can't you find it?" "Your Majesty." Sun Jian smiled bitterly. "However, all the literary stars are my seniors. Moreover, I can't expose my whereabouts, so naturally, it's not easy to find. Also, who knows if the one who occupied Sun Hao's body was a literary star in the Immortal Palace or a literary star in the hidden Immortal Continent. Maybe it's a ploy by some aristocratic family to divert the disaster. Humph, there are only a few people who can covet my position." Immortal Emperor Go Chen snorted and said, "Actually, even if you don't say it, I can guess who it is. Unfortunately, that Sun Hao is too cunning. I only borrowed the power of the 3 provinces of thunder. The moment I saw him, he immediately realized it and didn't allow me to attack. He immediately self-destructed. He didn't give me a chance at all." "Your Majesty." Sun Jian reminded, "You must be careful. Sun Hao knows Your Majesty's methods very well. His self-destruction was completely aimed at your Majesty's magic power. Even with the power of the Supreme Heavenly Mirror and your Majesty's method of controlling the hidden immortal continent, you still couldn't find his secret. It shows how well your Majesty's enemy knows your Majesty. Alas, you're absolutely right. Immortal Emperor Go Qin sighed and said, the people who know themselves the best are not those who love themselves, but those who hate themselves. This principle is unbreakable throughout the ages. It's a pity that I don't have much time left. Sun Jian said regretfully, perhaps it won't be long before that person discovers my secret. At that time, I won't be able to investigate it anymore. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was stunned and asked curiously, Sun Jian, what do you mean? Didn't I let you temporarily take over the position of the Sun Palace's great general to give you some leeway to create a false impression for that person? Sun Jian smiled and looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen, saying, Your Majesty, do you think that with the Maitreya Buddha, the Thunder Temple's strength will surpass my immortal palace? With the addition of a 7 stars great saint, the Great Sage Temple's strength will surpass my immortal palace? If it was someone else, Immortal Emperor Go Chen wouldn't reveal his true feelings. However, facing Sun Jian, he showed a bitter expression and replied, Yes, if the demon race and the Buddha sect had one more pure 9th level essence force expert, I wouldn't be so distressed. However, the Maitreya Buddha of the Thunder Temple is one of the 3 great Buddha lords. The heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix of the Great Sage Temple is a 7 stars great saint. Their influence is incomparable to that of an ordinary 9th level essence force. At this point, Immortal Emperor Go Chen thought of something and smiled. Of course, I didn't expect that not only would you return safely, but you would also miraculously cultivate to the Wisdom Saint realm. Although you didn't want to reveal the secret to me, I am very happy that I have you, perfected Lord Qin Yuan, who is comparable to the Thunder Temple's Maitreya Buddha of the Thunder Temple. Your Majesty's words are somewhat insincere. Sun Jian's strength had improved by leaps and bounds, so he didn't hesitate to speak frankly in front of Immortal Emperor Go Chen. Hence, he spoke with a smile. Immortal Emperor Go Chen smiled and was about to say something else when Sun Jian continued, However, I still have to congratulate your Majesty. Oh? Where did the congratulations come from? Immortal Emperor Go Chen was stunned. Suddenly, a golden light rose around him and the golden throne below him let out a loud rumble. The entire Ling Yun Palace rapidly collapsed. Immortal Emperor Go Chen seemed to have understood something. However, Sun Jian didn't continue speaking and only looked at Immortal Emperor Go Chen with a smile on his face. Sun Jian. You're saying that? No, the human Confucian cultivators also have such a person? Immortal Emperor Go Chen seemed to have an epiphany and cried out involuntarily. Yes. How could I be confused? If you want to cultivate to the Wisdom Saint realm, you must have someone to guide you. Moreover, your 3-pointed double-edged saber has been refined to such an extent. You must have an expert behind you. At this point, Immortal Emperor Go Chen asked tentatively, Who is your master? Can he come to the Immortal Palace? Your Majesty. Sun Jian smiled and said, I don't know if this expert will come or not. However, I know that your Majesty must invite him. He is more important to the Immortal Palace than the Maitreya Buddha of the world to the Thunder Temple. Yes, of course, I must invite him. Immortal Emperor Go Chen frowned again because he knew very well what the Maitreya Buddha of the world meant to the Thunder Temple. He didn't know who else could be so important to the Immortal Palace. Sun Jian was waiting for this moment. He smiled and asked, Your Majesty, you must know the true scholar, right? Of course. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said disapprovingly, Wasn't he created by Sun Yu and Xian? At this point, Immortal Emperor Go Chen stood there in a daze. He was in disbelief and even stuttered. He no longer had the composure of an immortal emperor and asked, You mean, what Zhenru wanted to do, that master has already done it? Sun Jian didn't answer. He raised his hand and slapped the top of his head. Boom! 5-colored true qi gushed out and turned into 5-colored clouds above his head. Each cloud was like a lively flame. A kind of vitality seeped out from the clouds. It was far beyond the five-colored true chi of ordinary Confucian cultivators. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen couldn't sit still anymore. Whoosh! He flew up and landed on top of Sun Jian's head. His eyes flashed with a golden color. Golden eyes. Only the Sun family of the Immortal Palace could cultivate the clear eyes technique. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen looked for a while and calmed down a little. He slowly flew back to his golden seat and stared at Sun Jian. Did Xian's Tian Xian fall into his hands? Princess Xian? Sun Jian was stunned and shook his head. I don't know. Chapter 4460. Only by understanding the heaven's heart can one cultivate the true five Chi's unification. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen says, if you didn't get Xian's half of the heaven's heart, how would you know the cultivation method of the five Chi's unification? I don't know how that senior got the five Chi's unification. Sun Jian answers, however, even if he got Princess Xian's half of the heaven's heart, he still has the other four half of the heaven's heart. There are only four half of the heaven's heart in this world. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen says, the other half is in the heavenly court. Oh, so that's how it is. Then I'm ignorant. Sun Jian nods. Only the previous masters of the Immortal Palace know about this. It's normal that you don't know. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen laughs. Seeing Immortal Emperor Go-Chen laugh, Sun Jian understands and answers, I'll explain this to that senior. That's what you said, it has nothing to do with me. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen's eyes flash with fervor and asks, what I'm concerned about is this five Chi's unification. I've already asked that senior before returning to the Immortal Palace. Sun Jian says. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen looks at Sun Jian's mouth and really wants to take the words out of his mouth. However, he already has a premonition in his heart. After all, Sun Jian has already displayed the five Chi's unification in front of him. Sun Jian says word by word, that senior agreed for me to return the five Chi's unification to the Confucian cultivator. After all, this five Chi's unification was originally a lost cultivation method of the Confucian cultivator. Good. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen claps his hands and laughs. With the five Chi's unification, why would I fear the demon race? However, Sun Jian says, I feel that cultivation methods are dead, but people are alive. Although this senior doesn't care about fame and fortune, the ancients are still willing to spend 1,000 gold coins to buy horse bones. Your Majesty, why can't you invite this senior to my immortal palace? Of course, of course. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen makes up his mind and says, what's this senior's name and where is he now? I'll go down to the lower realm to search. This. Sun Jian hesitates again. Actually, he wants to recommend Xiao Hua. However, he also understood that Xiao Hua believed that he was a Taoist cultivator and that it was impossible for him to come to the Immortal Palace. At this time, he revealed the five Chi's unification's cultivation method because he heard the news about the heaven-defying Thunder Phoenix and the Maitreya Buddha. On the three mainlands, other than Xiao Hua and the Fortune Gate's disciples, no one knew more about the heaven-defying Lightning Phoenix and Maitreya Buddha than him. Since Feng Wu and Subhuti could go to the Great Holy Hall and Lightning Tune Temple, why couldn't Wen Chu come to the Immortal Palace? Therefore, Sun Wu hesitated for a moment before he smiled and said, this senior's name is Wen Chu. Naturally, he was already a literary star. As for where he went, I don't know. However, Your Majesty should know that the day this senior appears will be the day I reveal myself. I hope to stall for as long as possible. Wenxiu. Good name. Immortal Emperor Go-Chen clapped his hands and laughed. My Immortal Palace's Wenxiu Palace does not have a master yet. What do you think if I invite him to be the master of the Wenxiu Palace? Sun Wu smiled and said, Your Majesty is right. Although the Wenxiu Palace is not comparable to the Pure Jade Palace, High Purity Palace, and Grand Purity Palace, the name of the Wenxiu Palace is too special. Even the masters of the 3 pure palaces do not dare to call themselves Wenchu. This senior can pass down our orthodox 5 cheese unifications cultivation method. He is indeed worthy of being the master of the Wenchu Palace. Not only that. Immortal Emperor Go Chen said excitedly, since Wenchu can disclose the 5 cheese unifications cultivation method to the Immortal Palace, he is qualified to be the master of our Confucian cultivators. I want to give him the title of Immortal Master and announce it to the entire hidden Immortal continent. Your Majesty is wise. Sun Jian prostrated himself in admiration. In just a short moment, Immortal Emperor Go Chen had tied Wenchu to the chariot of Immortal Palace. Wenchu's title as an Immortal Master wouldn't be any weaker than the Maitreya Buddha of the Thunderclap Temple and the heaven-defying Lightning Phoenix of the Great Sacred Hall. The entire hidden Immortal continent would be shaken. Motherfucker. At this time, Sun Jian was shocked again. Daoist Shao is now the Dragon Master of the Dragon Clan. Wenchu is now the Immortal Master of our Confucian cultivators. Bodhi has become the Buddha Maitreya Buddha, and Feng Wu has become the first great saint of the Demon Clan. This Fortune Gate is now the place where all things flow into one place. The Fortune Gate and the Fortune Dao Palace are truly places of fortune awe. With the title of Immortal Master, the 5 cheese unifications cultivation method, and the help of the Scholar Palace's master, Immortal Emperor Go Chen raised his head and looked into the distance. He said meaningfully, not to mention the 4 great clans, even the 100 schools of thought, will have to listen to the orders of my school of the military. Sun Jian, you are truly my lucky general. Sweat. Seeing Immortal Emperor Go Chen's plan, Sun Jian's face was covered in sweat. Although he was a famous commander and was unparalleled in judging the situation on the battlefield, when it came to power struggles, how could he see as far as Immortal Emperor Go Chen? He only wanted to gain some benefits for Xiao Hua, but he didn't expect Immortal Emperor Go Chen to want even more. As the saying goes, there is no such thing as a free lunch in the sky. Whether it was Immortal Master or the Scholar Palace's master, they were not for nothing. At this moment, Sun Jian was almost regretting his decision. He was afraid that Xiao Hua and Wenchu wouldn't agree. However, before he could say anything, Immortal Emperor Go Chen suddenly stopped and slapped the golden throne. A palm-sized golden leaf flew out. Immortal Emperor Go Chen looked at it and said angrily, "Your hair is long but your knowledge is short. How can you do this at a time like this?" With that, Immortal Emperor Go Chen crushed the golden leaf and said, "Sun Jian, I will tell Tai Bai Jinxing to write a decree. Do you want to announce it to the world first? Or do you want to wait until you find that senior? I feel that it is better to inform that senior first." Sun Jian hastily replied. Unfortunately, Sun Jian still underestimated Immortal Emperor Go Chen's arbitrariness. He simply asked Sun Jian and didn't expect Sun Jian to answer. Even if Sun Jian answered, it would be in vain. Immortal Emperor Go Chen shook his head and said, "I feel that it is better to announce it to the world first. What do you think?" "Why?" Sun Jian knew it was inappropriate, but he still asked. "First, our Confucian cultivators are at a disadvantage right now. The demon race and the Buddhist sect both have leaders. If we don't have an immortal master, our morale will be low and we will be at a disadvantage. Second, the sutra seeking extreme bliss is a compromise between the Immortal Palace and the Buddhist sect. The 4 great clans are already pressuring me. If the 4 great clans take this opportunity to show off, I will be unable to make ends meet. It is better to use this to attract the attention of the 4 great clans. Third, if you ask and Wenchu doesn't come, won't I be happy for nothing? But, what if your majesty issues the decree and Wenchu still doesn't come?" Sun Jian was worried. What is done cannot be undone. Immortal Emperor Go Chen smiled and said, "The 5 energies origin method. Can't you teach it? I only need this gimmick. Whether Wenchu enters the literary palace or not, it doesn't matter." Immortal Emperor Go Chen's golden chair shook again and another golden leaf flew out. Immortal Emperor Go Chen reached out and caught it. He casually looked at it and crushed it. Then, he looked at Sun Jian and said, "Just now, the divination hall sent a message." In their surveillance, not only did they discover the stars in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, but they also found a huge amount of heaven and earth origin energy flowing in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. The divination hall deduced that there are hundreds of thousands of high-level cultivators channeling their magic power there. Sun Jian, I remember that the Grand Mist Ancestor didn't have that many disciples under him. Immortal Emperor Go Chen's words seemed casual, and he only mentioned the Grand Mist Ancestor. However, Sun Jian knew that Immortal Emperor Go Chen had an ulterior motive. He was probing Xiao Hua's strength. Sun Jian was a bit conflicted. He had already told Immortal Emperor Go Chen about Xiao Hua's goodwill. However, it was obvious that Immortal Emperor Go Chen didn't care too much about Xiao Hua's goodwill. After all, on the hidden immortal continent, the Tao Gate was weak. Even someone as strong as the Grand Mist Ancestor wasn't in Immortal Emperor Go Chen's eyes. Although Xiao Hua's rise was like the rising sun, Immortal Emperor Go Chen didn't take him seriously. Sun Jian was also prepared to slowly reveal Xiao Hua's power and fulfill his promise with Xiao Hua. However, Xiao Hua suddenly caused such a big commotion in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm. Although Sun Jian didn't know what Xiao Hua did, how could the appearance of hundreds of thousands of high-level Tao Gate disciples be a small matter? Although the Sky Secret Hall might not know about this matter now, they would know sooner or later. Instead of being passive at that time, it was better to tell Immortal Emperor Go Chen now. Thus, Sun Jian thought for a while and said, "Your Majesty, regarding the appearance of hundreds of thousands of high-level Tao Gate disciples in the Thousand Demons' sacred realm, it shouldn't be the Grand Mist Ancestor's doing. If I'm not mistaken, I think it has something to do with Xiao Hua." Ah. Immortal Emperor Go Chen was obviously stunned. He looked at Sun Jian in disbelief. However, his expression returned to normal in an instant. After pondering for a while, he asked, in other words, while Xiao Hua was cultivating, he was also nurturing many Tao Gate disciples? Sun Jian didn't answer Immortal Emperor Go Chen's question. Instead, he cleverly changed the topic. "Your Majesty, I have already told you about Xiao Hua's intentions. According to my understanding, Xiao Hua isn't an ambitious person. To put it bluntly, he is perhaps a village farmer who is content with a small fortune. However, his luck was extremely good and his strength reached his current level. The situation of the three continents forced him to come to the front. In fact, he only wanted to cultivate peacefully and didn't want to be distracted by other things. In addition, I have also come into contact with those disciples of his, and I even have a life and death friendship with them. As for the outer disciples, I can't say. Those disciples that he taught himself don't have any special ambitions. Therefore, I think that your Majesty should be on good terms with Xiao Hua." Unfortunately, before he finished speaking, Immortal Emperor Go Chen laughed again. "Not only do I want to be on good terms with Xiao Hua, I also want to use Xiao Hua to restrain the Grand Mist Ancestor." Chapter 4461. After hearing this, Sun Jian's sweat dripped down his back again. He knew Xiao Hua's temper. Xiao Hua was amenable to coaxing but not coercion. He hated being used by others the most. If Xiao Hua knew about Immortal Emperor Gao Chen's plan, who knew what kind of loopholes he would make? Sun Jian hurriedly said, "Your Majesty." While they were talking, the Emperor's golden throne violently shook again. Another piece of gold flew out. The Emperor became impatient and picked it up to take a look. A rare trace of awkwardness appeared on his face. He looked at Sun Jian and asked, "Why is your auntie looking for you again? Didn't you go to the Hall of Fragrance earlier?" "Well." Sun Jian was also stunned. He nodded and said, "I just returned to the Immortal Palace and went to see you in the Hall of Fragrance." "Forget it, you should go." The Emperor helplessly said, "I have already scolded her twice. If I refute her again, she will be angry." Yes, I understand. Sun Jian didn't dare to say anything else and bowed. I will go right away. However, just as he said that, Sun Jian seemed to have thought of something and said, "Oh right, if it's possible, Your Majesty, send a decree to the Hall of Enlightenment not to provoke the hundreds of thousands of Dao sect cultivators, or let me take charge of this matter. Your Majesty only needs to invite Senior Wenxiu into the Wenxiu Palace, and everything will be fine. Your Majesty and I will only need to find the thief who covets Your Majesty's throne." Okay, I understand. Go to the Hall of Fragrance. The Emperor was clearly absent-minded and said, "Be careful, don't let your whereabouts be exposed." Sun Jian wryly smiled. "Your Majesty, I am now the Sun Palace's Grand General. A trip to the Hall of Fragrance won't cause any suspicion, right? All in all, just be careful." Immortal Emperor Go-Chen waved his sleeve and signaled for Sun Jian to leave. Not to mention Sun Jian, the Nangong young noble, Nangong Jingyin, asked Immortal Emperor Go-Chen for permission to visit the Eastern Sea Emperor at the Lingyun Palace. After coming out of the palace, he went straight to the west of the palace. He flew past many pavilions and clouds before finally arriving at the foot of a mountain. The Immortal Palace had always been dominated by palaces. Even with Nangong Jingyin's experience, she couldn't help but stop in the air. After a while, she broke out from the intoxication of the mountain scenery and smiled. "Since ancient times, I only felt that the 4 seasons were new, but I didn't know that the autumn moon was near. Only when the mortal world is heavy would I feel that the scenery of the mountain ridges is new." The moment she finished reciting, a yellow scarf warrior suddenly came out from the foot of the mountain. This yellow scarf strongman was at least 1,000 feet tall. His body surged with an awe-inspiring aura, emitting a reddish-yellow luster. "Who are you? How dare you trespass into the Hall of Fragrance?" The yellow scarf warrior shouted. "If you have no intention of offending, then turn around and I'll pretend that I didn't see anything." Nangong Jingyi naturally wasn't afraid. She stood firmly in the air and bowed. "This one is the young noble of the Nangong family, Nangong Jingyin. This one has already paid respects to the Immortal Emperor and received his order to come and pay respects to the Eastern Abyss Empress." The yellow scarf warrior was stunned and raised his hand. "Do you have the Immortal Emperor's decree?" "The Immortal Emperor is discussing important matters in the palace and doesn't have the time to care about this one." Nangong Jingyin calmly replied. "Thus, this one doesn't have the Immortal Emperor's decree, only the Nangong family's token." "Where is the token?" The yellow scarf warrior roared with a respectful tone. "Please examine it." Nangong Jingyin took out her token and handed it to the warrior. The yellow scarf warrior took the token and looked at it before saying, "Please wait a moment." Then, the yellow scarf warrior flew into the mountain and disappeared. Not long later, a woman in palace attire flew out with Nangong Jingyin's token. When she got close, she handed the token back and bowed with a smile. "Young Master Nangong, the Empress invites you in." "Many thanks, sister, please lead the way." Nangong Jingyin took the token and carefully held it in his hand before returning the greeting. That woman covered her mouth and smiled. "Young Master Nangong, please." Nangong Jingyin looked at the woman's swaying waist and her graceful figure as she controlled the clouds with a trace of a smile on his face. Then, he lowered his head and followed behind. After flying over the mountain, 5 colored clouds covered the entire mountain range. Moreover, in the air, strands of elegant fragrance entered his nose. Nangong Jingyin lightly breathed in, and when that fragrance entered his body, a refreshing feeling appeared in his mind. Not only did his limbs and bones feel comfortable, even the qi in his middle dantian sped up. "Sister," Nangong Jingyin said, "the fragrance-spreading palace is indeed the most beautiful place in the Immortal Palace. Every time I go there, I feel a little younger. Sister is serving the Empress in the fragrance-spreading palace. Not to mention 1,000 years, even 10,000 years later, you will still be as young as you are now. Hee, no wonder the Empress is biased. Young Master Nangong's mouth is really sweet." Hearing this, the woman was elated. Her face blushed and she smiled. Celestial Empress was about to head to the back of the mountain to pick the woodheart grass. When she heard that young Master Nangong was coming, she ordered people to postpone the matter and hurriedly sent this servant to invite you. If it was someone else, the Empress would definitely not meet them. Io, this is all my fault. Nangong Jingyin smiled and said, the sisters are all prepared, but they were delayed because of me. I have to apologize. As she spoke, Nangong Jingyin took out a jade box and handed it over to that woman. Sister, this is a heart-cleansing pill made by my Nangong family. It isn't anything precious, but it has some unique benefits for skin maintenance. Normally, the women of my Nangong family would use this to maintain their beauty. Sister, please give this to the other sisters and ask them to forgive me. Is that so? This is the Nangong family's heart-cleansing pill? That woman's figure stopped as shock appeared in her eyes. This servant has long heard of this heart-cleansing pill. Although the name sounds ordinary, it is extremely useful for women like us. Nangong Jingyin smiled and stuffed the jade box into the woman's hands. She waved her hand and said, rumors are inevitably exaggerated. This heart-cleansing pill is just an ordinary pill made by my Nangong family. Sister, you don't have to mind it. If that's the case, then this servant will bring the other sisters to thank young master. The woman giggled and carefully put it away. How could she not know how precious this heart-cleansing pill was? By the way, sister, how is the Empress' mood these few days? Nangong Jingyin asked casually. The woman naturally understood this logic. She didn't try to hide it and said with a smile, Celestial Empress has been in a good mood these few days, much better than before. Otherwise, she wouldn't think of going to the back mountain. Many thanks, big sister. Nangong Jingyin understood and didn't ask any more questions, only replying with a smile. Afterward, the woman brought Nangong Jingyin and flew forward again. In just a short moment, they entered the 5-colored clouds. Within the clouds, there was a palace on the foot of the mountain. This palace's style was simple and unadorned. An auspicious aura surged into the sky. Immortal birds were leisurely circling around the palace, and immortal beasts were leisurely pacing around the palace. The palace was extremely large and seemed to cover the entire foot of the mountain. However, there were layers of clouds above the palace, and the majority of it couldn't be seen with the naked eye. There was a door in the palace, and there was a group of female generals in front of it. These female generals wore armor and held imperial artifacts. They all looked valiant and formidable. When the female generals saw someone flying over, they immediately went on guard. The 2 female generals in front even used eye-clearing techniques to examine Nangong Jingyin. Nangong Jingyin had a smile on her face as she nodded at the 2 female generals. She didn't stop and followed the woman who led the way to the palace. The 2 didn't land, and the group of female generals had already formed a formation and faintly surrounded the 2 of them. When that woman landed, she smiled at the female general in front and said, General Rainbow Phoenix, this is the young master of the Nangong family, Nangong Jingyin. She is here to greet the Empress. Go in. General Rainbow Phoenix glanced at Nangong Jingyin and nodded. She waved her hand, and the group of female generals behind her moved aside. However, they still remained vigilant not far away. Behind the female general was the palace door. This door was also grand, and there were 3 flamboyant inscriptions on it, Fragrance-Spreading Palace. The doors of the Hall of Fragrance were divided into 9 sections, but they were not completely open. Only the door on the far right was half closed, neither too big nor too small. The woman walked to the door and said respectfully, Young Master Nangong, please, okay. Nangong Jingyin nodded and walked in. The woman hurriedly turned around and walked towards a side door. Nangong Jingyin stepped into the fragrance-spreading palace and was greeted by thousands of flowers. Some were big, some were small, some were blooming, and some were budding. They filled the entire fragrance-spreading palace. Other than the dense fragrance in her nose, there was only a myriad of colors. There wasn't a single path, nor was there a palace. Nangong Jingyin looked around and couldn't help but feel dizzy. The moment Nangong Jingyin closed her eyes, that woman flew out from a flower beside her and said respectfully, "Young Master Nangong, please follow this servant, sister, please." Nangong Jingyin opened her eyes. Her eyes were clear now. The woman didn't move. Instead, she stepped into a faint yellow flower bud. The instant she stepped in, the flower bud suddenly expanded to more than 30 meters in size. Nangong Jingyin didn't dare to delay and quickly followed. Swoosh! A faint yellow light mixed with clouds covered the entire flower bud. Nangong Jingyin felt the entire world shake. His body seemed to have moved a little, but it didn't seem to have moved at all. The flower bud returned to its original state. You're tuning into the A Romantic Tales YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.